Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to NBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You like that? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
Oh, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into the Film Guy Network on a beautiful Tuesday evening. I'm going to tell you what, it's so damn jam-packed. I still got a highlighter in my hand, still highlighting my show notes. It is that kind of night here on the network. It's a great time to be here. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate, review it. 4 high schools in 4 years, going on 3 college universities in 3 college football seasons. That is the news today as Bear Alexander hits the transfer portal. And not to do the I told you so thing, because I wasn't ballsy enough. I wasn't ballsy enough to come out here and report it myself yesterday, but the inklings of this have been coming out. Yesterday when I came out here and said, are we going to see any studs in the portal? Yeah, we were going to see some studs in the portal. We were going to see some guys doing some Mexican standoffs with their current team in hopes of getting some type of raise. We were going to see individuals ask for raises or demand raises only for their current home to say, hey, man, we're a little cash tight right now. We don't have that advance for you. Well, I'm under the impression that's exactly what happened with Bear Alexander today. Per my information and per my sourcing, there was either a demand for a raise or an inability to meet funds. Either way, Bear Alexander is hitting the portal for the 3rd time during his college football career. And again, man, that's kind of what we talked about last night. We talked about guys that experience mercenary behavior, which is exactly what this is. 4 high schools in 4 years. You were a traveling hired gun. That's what you were. And now you are that in college. That's what you have developed into the last 7 years. And that is what college football allows now, right? We have people that are going to leave because schools bounce checks. We have people that are going to leave because the school that they were at didn't called their bluff, rather. We have all kinds of stuff like this going around in college football. Per my information, Bear Alexander will go to the highest bidder in this next round of college, NCAA transfer portal windows, which kind of narrows it down to like 3 or 4 schools that have relatively endless budgets, right? You're looking at Oregon. You're looking at what Ohio State's kind of doing right now, even though, hey, is Ohio State tapped out right now? You don't really know. You look at Tennessee. You look at schools like Oregon. I don't know if I mentioned Texas, but Texas would be another football program that's in the mix here, right? He obviously committed to Texas at one point. That's the other thing about Bear. There were 3 college commitments during his recruitment process. Was an A&M commit, was a Texas commit, was a Georgia commit. It was, mercenary behavior. It's been like this from start. You kind of knew exactly what you were going to get when you land this dude. Here's the thing for me, though. He's uber talented. He is so supremely talented, so much so that you put up with, like you do with a lot of great athletes, you put up with some of the day-to-day happenings that might be a little difficult. I'm not going to say Bear Alexander is a cultural cancer. I think that's going to get thrown around with this news. People are going to talk about how bad of a culture fit he is, yada, yada, yada. I think it's more of hey, sometimes football players are difficult to deal with on a day-to-day basis. He certainly fits this mold. By the way, you Georgia fans, Jalen Carter, not the easiest day-to-day football player to coach. Devontae Wyatt wasn't the easiest day-to-day football coach or player to coach. George Pickens wasn't very easy to coach from a day-to-day perspective. JT Daniels, not very easy to coach from a day-to-day perspective. Depending upon the talent level, you deal with these types of things left and right? Your talent level has to match your crazy. Do you guys watch How I Met Your Mother? Mm-hmm. Okay, the hot to crazy scale. Mm-hmm. Hey man, we got to be in a very flatlined approach on that hot and crazy scale. The crazier you get, the hotter you better be, right? The same thing when it comes to football players. The more difficult you are to deal on a day-to-day basis, you better be supremely talented. This individual is 100% supremely talented. But at some point, gentlemen, I wonder, When is he going to receive some type of, I don't want to wish any harm upon anybody, but he has not received any type of backlash for this mercenary behavior. In fact, everywhere he's gone, he's received raises and, playing time increases and role increases, and everything's been for the better. So for the kid's perspective, how could you possibly fault him? He's only trying to pursue the best opportunity for him. And by the way, it is made available to us nowadays again. So we're not going to sit here and harp on it too much. But the track record does not lie. He is 100% a hired gun, and you would imagine the NFL is looking at this at some point because he's an NFL draftable player. By the way, I think if he stayed at USC and played another year, he's probably a top 60 pick. Like, that's how good this football player is. But you're going to have to deal with this type of stuff where it seems like what teams are dealing with is every quarter, we got to talk to Bear Alexander about whether or not he's getting the money that he deserves or whether or not he's going to get a raise. That's what it appears to be. What I want to know is wherever he lands next, when they put him up in front of a microphone or give him an access to a press conference and he gets asked the question, or whenever he gets asked the question of why did you keep leaving these places, I want to know the answer, because when he left Georgia, it was because he sought a bigger role, right? He wanted to be a 3-down player, didn't just want to play on pass rushing downs, wanted to be a run stopper. And yeah, there was merit in that, right? At Georgia, his freshman year, he was a situational pass rusher, but he was going to be the guy last year for the University of Georgia. So that didn't really hold merit for most people who knew the situation, or at least on the surface of the situation seemed to know the situation. So now we have this one, and it's just, at some point, guys, there's going to be some type of negative thought process about this individual. And if you're just a public relations manager, this is a nightmare from a public relations standpoint on your football player. Additionally, I am just waiting, boys and girls, for the moment a quarterback decides that they're going to do this shit. A quarterback decides every year they're going to hit free agency in college football, because this young man is extremely highly paid. He's probably the highest paid defensive tackle in the sport, and he's either seeking the same type of payment wherever he's going next, or you would presume a raise wherever he's going next. So, gentlemen, the real scary one is when a quarterback decides, hey, I got $1.5 million out of high school. I'm going to get $2 million my sophomore year. I'm going to get $2.5 million my junior year. And because I'm so good, I'm going to go get $30-40 million in the NFL draft as well.
Do you think that behooves a quarterback less, though, just because you have to then each individual year get adjusted to a new system, new coaching staff, new players? Whereas when you're a defensive lineman, you can kind of, it's not an isolated position, but you don't have to rely on the chemistry of the rest of your team as much as that.
I think if you're a quarterback to do this, you better be the system.
Right.
You better be Cam Newton. That's what I'm saying. That's essentially what I'm saying, to be a hired mercenary like this. But you're all right. From a defensive line standpoint, it's see ball, get ball. Make sure you're in your proper gap, which based off USC's rushing integrity last year, you would presume gap integrity was a problem across the board for all of those guys. Yeah. But no, this is an immensely talented football player who's going to get top-notch dollar in the portal, in 5-6 days. I think it's 7 days from now, the portal opens. I think it's April 16th. So, yeah. This is a pre-reporting. He has intentions to enter the portal. Over the next week, maybe USC decides to come up with the money. Maybe USC gets their feet held to the fire. I don't imagine that is the situation. The chat hits it on the head. What if Arch Manning would have done something like this?
I mean,
what if Arch Manning would have just absolutely, for lack of a better term, hoard himself out at the high school level to maximize NIL profits? You think he would have fetched like a $5 million sum in a singular lump sum payment, like 1 year payment?
I think that could be a path for this to happen for a quarterback of someone of Arch Manning's caliber coming out of high school. You can go to a place like Texas where you know for a fact you're not going to start your first year. You can go ahead and collect that paycheck. Then you can go to your next school where you might be the guy that next year. And then if you want to do it a third time, I guess you can do it a third time. The only example I can really think of, and it's a different type of circumstances, DJ Hughes had 3 schools over the last 3 years. He was at Clemson, and then he went to Oregon State, and now he's at Florida State. But again, his head coach left this last year. Obviously at Clemson, he was getting pushed out of that room, so it's a different circumstance. But it seems like it's eventually going to happen. Someone's going to do it because it's benefiting some of these kids money wise.
I feel like you can make an argument that Quinn Ewers did this because he early enrolled at Ohio State, stayed there for a year, and then basically took the NIL money and went to Texas after that. So, but then he stayed at Texas, so it's not like he's been continuously bouncing around. But
my whole thing is like players that continue to jump around schools and whatnot, like. I don't know if we don't. I mean, I guess we kind of have somewhat of a sample size with him now, but I think it's really over the years you're really going to start seeing it is like once these guys get into the league, like how do those players treat that type of system? Like, is it any different for them because now you're like bounded to this contract? Like, we have you for 3 years, we're paying you X amount of dollars. Like, it's very different, obviously, because you can't just tell your NFL GM like, hey, I'm leaving, like I'm out of here, I'm going to go somewhere else. I wonder how that's going to go.
Over the last 3 years, we've seen about 25% of the top 10 programs kind of lose retention, lose players to the portal, right? I think this December it was 16 for Georgia or 13 for Georgia.
Yeah.
It was 17 for Alabama. It was, 16, 17, 18 for Ohio State. It was over 20 for Florida State. And what I'm trying to get at is a lot of those players were highly talented football players. A lot of those players were highly recruited individuals. And now we have a sample size, right? We're getting to the point now where we have data points on this, like the NFL draft. I only know of two off the top of my head. The Rodriguez kid that transferred to Oregon from, I believe, Colorado. He was a first-round draft pick to New England. And then Jermaine Johnson was a transfer out of Georgia to Florida State and was a first-round draft pick. I'm hard-pressed to find another one. We'll see at the quarterback position. Baker Mayfield was a first-round draft pick. He transferred before the portal, though. That was a former walk-on going to another school to walk on again and earn a scholarship. So this is a totally newfound era where we're actually starting to get data, and the data does not represent 25% of first-round draft picks having been transfers. Like 25% of these rosters are turning over. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean... And I think if you're talented, it doesn't really matter. Like there's Jalen Hurts, there's Joe Burrows, there's Justin Fields for every player that goes and flames out in the portal. I think it mostly it's indicative of, are you a talented player? Are you a first round talent? And I mean, I don't know if Bear Alexander's a first round talent. I think he's a top 60 eval for sure. I don't know what this does to his draft stock now because again, it's 7 teams in 7 years. It's kind of like what's going on here. But other than that,
you think he played on multiple middle school like Pop Warner teams?
I don't know.
I mean, money on it.
Are you getting money?
I would too. I would bet substantial money.
Really?
That he played on multiple Pop Warner teams.
Dude, you do 7 schools in 7 years.
Yeah,
I would say that. Yeah, the odds are that.
I guess the incentive's less at that point. Like, are you getting paid in middle school?
Maybe they spin this as a positive that his communication skills are elite because he's been a transplant for 7 years. Yeah. So he can just fit in wherever he goes.
Or he can fit in any system he's in because he's been successful in all 7 of them.
System. I play ball.
I mean, Bear could easily just come wherever he goes, and once he gets in front of the mic, it could very easily just be like, "Well, I want to win," and nobody would bat an eye at that. I don't think anybody expects USC to be a upper tier, maybe potential playoff contender this year, just because with all the moving parts that they have. I mean, I guess you could just put that as the cop out. My thing is what do you think why do you think it's been both years now? He did it at Georgia and now he's done it at USC, where he waits until the spring portal to enter the portal. It's not right after the season. It's not until the spring portal opens. Is there a reason for that?
You put me in a real tough spot. Because the stuff about him leaving Georgia never it seemed money based. It seemed player role based, but I think there was some other stuff going on.
Okay,
like some other stuff in the locker room might have happened. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This situation was relayed to me. That USC, like I talked about last night, okay, every single one of these schools is coming into a cash flow issue because it's going out faster than it's coming in. Okay, they are promising a lot of this money that they don't necessarily have, that they got to go raise. So when you come up short on these payments, that's it. And I think personally that's what happened. I think the same thing happened up at Iowa with Caden Proctor. I think that was just as much a damn Iowa sucks. But how could you be surprised that Iowa sucks? You're from Iowa. So there's no way you could be shocked by that. I think what you were shocked by, hey, I'm supposed to be getting $45,000 a month, whatever the hell the going rate was for him, which for a starting left tackle, 5-star first round projection, you're looking at about $500,000 to $750,000 a year. That's what you're looking at about right now in terms of free market value. I'm not saying everybody's paying that for everybody, but if you're a starter in Power 5 football nowadays, we kind of have a number on you that number is about $200,000. But when you get to that higher end of things, you're talking about hundreds of, hundreds of thousands of dollars that could be shorted to you in your bank account over a 2-month time period. And if that's the case, yeah, you got to go. You got to go where you're actually going to get what they're promising you in today's day and age, because it is maximizing dollar amounts. There is no guarantee that you're going to play in the NFL for 12 years. There's just not. So if you can maximize your earning value and you can maximize your earning potential during college, then you probably have every right. You have every right to do so. And some people believe you have every right to do so without that would be messed up. No. Anyways, I always get distracted when people text me in the middle of the show, so don't do it. Unless I text you first, which was that case right there. People want to know, is Georgia going to get in the mix? Georgia's not getting in the mix here. Okay, Georgia will not be calling. I don't think Georgia will be doing too much evaluation on this one either.
No, I mean, you have to imagine that he's even more expensive than he was when he went to USC at this point. Mm-hmm. So,
and I mean, Georgia's pressed for bodies in that defensive line room right now. Anyways, I mean, you had another guy in the mix.
Yeah,
and you're really pressed for bodies.
Alrighty, welcome into tonight's show. We got a loaded one for you. I personally hope it works out for Bear, because he's so immensely talented that the pain of regret for that not working out is going to really, really be bad.
Yeah,
like that's something that, if 5 years from now he's not playing football, that's going to be something that he thinks about constantly, I would imagine, because this is a guy. This is one of these dudes that everybody kind of knew was going to be an elite football player, and he is an elite football player. He's just a mercenary, and that's okay, right? Ndamukong Suh had the same approach, by the way, but just in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Ndamukong Suh was a hired gun. I will go to the highest paid team, and towards the end of my career, I'll chase a ring with the Bucks. But outside of that, you gonna pay me, you gonna pay me what I am worth. And by the way, Ndamukong Suh did a ton of work off the field with that finances. So, making $1.5 million, making $2 million, whatever he makes over his college career, you can't multiply that money. That's not just, it's not always in your bank account. You can spend it as much as you can build upon it. But, the NFL money is not guaranteed. So you can understand why kids run after it in college. Welcome in. Like I said, we do have a loaded show for you guys tonight. Got a glimpse of Dylan Raiola in a 2-minute drill out there in Nebraska. And college football fans are doing college football things. So we're going to talk about that tonight. Utah football out here doing it, boys.
Really?
Doing it big. Utah football out here doing it big. Not Utah Utes. I'm talking about the state as a whole. Utah out here playing some football. Booster dinners galore. Booster dinners are going on all across college football. And Colorado and Coach Prime got perhaps one of the most outlandishly priced booster dinners that I've seen. But again, don't know the numbers on everyone else's. We found out about Dion's today. Thought we should bring that to you. We might get to a Set the Bar segment on South Carolina tonight, depending on how long we run. But the anti-Will Howard deep state, boys, the anti-Will Howard deep state is out and about, and they are getting after it. I don't want to be crowned the king of the anti-Will Howard deep state. However, I think I was the very first one to be like, you know what? He's kind of Devin Brownish. So we'll talk about that tonight. There was a national article that came out today. And the NCAA is not fiending for the PP. However, I am. Shout out to Prize Picks, our primary sponsor here today and always on the channel, okay? PrizePicks.com. Use promo code Brooks. You get 100% deposit match. What does that mean, my man? It means you put up to $100. You will get instantly matched with $100. Bingo, bango, bongo, right there on the spot. Only using promo code Brooks. It's a great time to be here, man. It's a great time to be alive. We're going 2 nights in a row. Looks like we're going to go over 300 active viewers. So make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. Make sure you're liking, subscribing, rating, reviewing, all that good stuff. And firing off in the chat. We have not seen any good fat quarterback names in there recently. I'd like to see some creativity from the chat today.
I do enjoy those.
I do enjoy it. I got a good chuckle from the big man over here every time I see one of those.
We need to make a leaderboard of it and just start ranking them.
Yeah, maybe. We still haven't sent out any certified ball knower certificates because I'm looking for some card stock and some places that I can print that card stock. So maybe some certified ball knower certificates made available for winners of the fat quarterback contest.
I like it.
There's that. Aaron Murray's still ducking. We'll talk about it. Maybe we won't. Boys, Did y'all hear your boy was featured? The show was featured.
I saw that
on a Twitter account today.
Pretty sick.
What
Pretty
Twitter
cool.
account? Like a big one?
Yeah, like Georgia Football's.
Oh, like one with 1 million followers.
Yeah, and honestly, I contemplated contacting my lawyer because I didn't hear nothing from him about them stealing my audio.
They took one of my tweets too. It's okay.
Word?
Yeah.
They doubled down on FGN?
Yeah.
That's crazy. We might have to have a talk. Anyways, that was pretty cool today. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and review like I asked you to do just a second ago. All right, let's talk about this. Nebraska seems to be running their program a little bit tight when it comes to the media availability. However, they have allowed 2 viewing periods for the media. I think the first one was like 3 or 4 days into spring practice. The most recent one being yesterday. They let media into practice availability and gave them 1 viewing period, just like they do at Georgia, where you get about 15, maybe 20 minutes. Do you want to know what the viewing period was? Periods of practice viewing period was?
What was it?
2-minute drill. So just like most high octane, most highly pressurized period that you could have of the quarterback room. Now, I don't know. I don't want to speak for Nebraska's beat reporting scene. However, if I were a Nebraska beat reporter, the very first thing that I would be making sure people understand is that this was a 2-minute drill. That this was quarterbacks putting it on the line, quarterbacks putting the ball at risk, quarterbacks playing like they have to score in a 2-minute drill. So, also, it should be noted that in a 2-minute drill, hey, defensive lineman probably going to be getting upfield, right? Defensive lineman probably going to be getting after the quarterback. So if you're behind a really shitty or porous offensive line, you're not going to look great. And I'm going to be honest with you. Dylan Raiola did not look great. He didn't. He missed a few throws, almost threw a pick, was behind on one of his completions on a crosser right in front of his face. But again, pressure was abundant. It was all over the place. And again, it was only 1 period of practice. It didn't look good though. And that's not the problem. If you're the captain of the DR-PR team, right? If you're the captain of the Dylan Raiola PR team, the problem wasn't that for 15 minutes, Dylan Raiola didn't look great in a 2-minute drill. He's a freshman. Most freshmen won't, right? They're not going to look great week 1, year 1, first time out there in front of me, all that good stuff. They're not always going to look great. That wasn't the problem, okay? That's not why Nebraska fans were in the YouTube comments today questioning their investment, literally, okay? So that wasn't the problem. The problem was the other freshman quarterback balled during that 15-minute time period, okay? The other freshman quarterback threw a couple touchdowns. The other freshman quarterback threw a couple balls downfield and made some explosives. And the other freshman quarterback, ladies and gentlemen, is no scrub. His name is Daniel Kaelin. He is an in-state guy. He is a Nebraska-bred sucker. He was the first commit in that class at the quarterback position. And he's not no Timmy. He's 6'3", he's 210 pounds, and he looks like a Power 5 football player. And here's one thing I wanted to it made me think about, right? When I first got to college, now I played Division II football. It was not what this is. This is major programs football, right? This is big time shit. But these are big time football players going to these places, right? The very first thing, gentlemen, that I noticed when I got to college was, oh shit, all of my teammates were their best players on their high school teams too.
Yep.
Oh damn, everybody's good, right? Everybody around me is just as good or slightly better than I am, or worse. They're older than I am, and they know more than I do, and they've been around, and they're far more comfortable than I am. It's the very first thing I noticed. And I would imagine, even as a 5-star, no matter where you go, if you're a 5-star number 1 quarterback ranked in the country, you go anywhere, there's going to be a sense of, oh damn. Oh, that guy's good. And the guy in my room happens to be good. This is the first moment of many, I would imagine, in Dylan Raiola's career where he is having some interpersonal doubts, right? Some, damn, am I what I thought I was, or am I what people tell me I am? Time for me to go respond. And that's all that's left, right? And again, 15-minute time period. It wasn't really shit to evaluate, except for there was stuff to evaluate in the sense that the other guy looked good and you did not.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, like if you watched him during his senior year at Buford, you could just tell like the game moved slow for him. I mean, he processed really well. He read the field really well. He protected the football. Like everything looked like it was in slow motion for him because he was always making the right decisions. But in that clip that Nebraska posted today, it just looked fast-paced for him. It just looked like everything was going 100 miles an hour, and it looked like he was reacting in that manner of like, holy crap, I feel like I got to react way quicker than I ever have in my life before. And his decisions with the football reflected that.
Yeah, I mean, he looked like a freshman. He looked like a true freshman playing with college athletes for not the first time, but one of the first times he's done it. Like, he hasn't gotten his footing yet, and that's okay. I think, like you said, the biggest problem with this, and the biggest thing that I guess hurts Raiola is the fact that the other freshmen looked way better than him. And you have days like that where it's just like one guy looks good, the other guy looks bad. If this is the way it truly is, where, you know, Dylan Raiola 5 months from now, he's not the answer, I think that's kind of a bad indication. But if the other guy's that good, like, go get him, fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they got a long time before they kind of decide on this, but it also, I know we came out the other day and we were like, it seems like Raiola's team, in terms of, it seems like he's going to be the guy moving forward. Just A, the investment, but B, them throwing him out in the media availabilities, not throwing out this Kaelin kid either, but giving the junior a chance to go out there and talk to the media as well. It seems to me, based off what I saw, it seems like the two freshmen are kind of battling to see who's going to be the number two. Mm-hmm. They kind of seem, based off the practice schedules and the reports that I read out of Nebraska today, seems like there's going to be at least a known starter out there with the returner.
I will say the one thing that, and I mentioned this to you guys, one thing that popped off to me was we got one great look at what his fastball looks like, and that was something that we never really saw on his senior tape.
Now, granted, it almost hit a defender in the face.
Oh, it did, but man, that thing was humming. Yeah, I was like, okay,
it was coming out a little bit differently. Dylan Raiola.
I like Mayo.
Yeah, Raiola. It's not bad.
Not bad.
Jim Plumpett. Matt Whitecastle.
Solid. You know, I've never had White Castle.
Carson Bacon.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. Some attempts at some Green Bay names in there. Fart Star. I mean,
whoa.
You know, one thing I know as a notoriously lifelong overweight person, yes, flatulence is a thing, but catch somebody with a high protein diet. Catch somebody out here with a high protein diet, always chugging down the protein powders, and I don't know, take a trip somewhere with them, stay in a hotel with them for a couple days. Tell me who's got the stinkier shit and stinkier farts. High protein guy, he got some rancid ass. So yeah, I think the fat people stink. A little bit overblown. Body odor for sure. More orifices to sweat in.
Yeah, so. No doubt. What'd you think about the music, though?
What in the world?
Whoever was
house music, bro.
No, it wasn't.
That was not house music.
Bad house
Some
music.
of it was not house music.
It was like 2000s pop.
Yeah, there was some funky music being played in there, and then as soon as I heard "Turn Down for What," I was like, "All right, whoever's on
y'all gotta think it's Nebraska. There's probably never been a rap song played in the state of Nebraska ever."
You got to think Nebraska's football team probably listens to a lot of rap music.
Yes, but the person who's probably controlling the rap music, or the music playing through the speakers.
You think Matt Rule's got his? You think Matt Rule got the ox?
Matt Rule might have been on ox.
Matt Rule on the ox needs to be fired on the ox.
Yeah, I heard a frick laid in one of the lyrics too, so it was.
They got edited.
Yeah, man. It wasn't even.
I'm all for house music, but it is not. It's not the right.
It was not the kind of.
It's not
music,
football practice.
It was not the kind of music that needed to be playing during a 2-minute drill at football practice.
Yeah, no, I can't be throwing bows to some. I don't know. I don't even know a reference here. I didn't recognize any of the music other than it was like, ugh. No way I could practice to that.
Yeah,
I'd prefer no music over that.
No music is fun, honestly.
Yeah, no music.
The silence can be deafening.
Yeah, the popping of the pads, you know, gets the juices flowing. So yeah, what would you? How do you spin that if you're the DRPR team? Just hey, bad day, chop it up. It's all good.
3 minutes of my day that day, so. 3 minutes of a 2-hour-long practice. Hard to make a big takeaway and come to a conclusion from
big facts.
I just turned 18. Give me some time. Like, did you expect me to be the savior of this football team month 2 by the time I got here?
And to the Nebraska fan, how do you calm them down?
I think just
same answer.
Saying that, like the kid just turned 18. You've got 4 or 5 months until you have to really start worrying about playing your first game. Like.
And I'm with that theory all over the board until the other freshman looks really good.
That's fine.
Fair enough.
You know, comfortable.
Yeah.
You know,
but I mean, you can go to any program in the world where there's a quarterback battle going on and ask, hey, there's been days where guy A had a better day than guy B, and vice versa.
Shit, Gunnar Stockton had a day this year this spring where he didn't even throw an incompletion.
Exactly.
For an entire practice. So there wasn't no quarterback battle immediately after that at the University of Georgia. But nah, I think he's going to be fine. I think they're going to be fine. They got to improve on a 7-5 season, but Matt Rule seems to be a dude, like a known dude at the coaching profession. So that's good news for Nebraska fans all around, despite the fact that you might be panicking right now, but you shouldn't be. All right, Utah football, boys. The state of Utah only accounts for 1% of the nation's population. Did you know that?
I did 1%. Not know that.
That's interesting.
That's
1%. Now, I got a crazy ass stat for you. Okay. Now, this is a stat about the number of years it took for at least 30 players to be drafted in the NFL draft from the state of Utah. The first 30 players drafted in the NFL draft from the state of Utah spanned from 1953 to 1983. So over 30 years, they had one draft pick per year, essentially for 30 years. Now, from 1985 to 2007, that's 22 years, they had another 30 players drafted in the NFL draft. From 2007 to 2019, that's 13 years. So we've gone from 30 to 22 to 13 years. They had another 30 players drafted in the NFL draft. Now, how about this? From 2020 to 2023, the last 4 NFL drafts, they've placed 30 players in the NFL draft. Per capita, Utah places one NFL player per 130,000 individuals and citizens in the state. So 1 out of 130K end up making the league.
Where does that rank nationally?
That is number 2 per capita.
Wow.
Holy shit.
Who's one?
I didn't get the number 1. I would imagine 1 is either Georgia or Texas.
Gotcha.
Yeah, got to be one of those.
California has way too many people. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Utah out here doing it big with regards to their, number of players. So the immediate question is, what's going on in Utah? How is there this massive influx of talent? How is there this massive influx of football players? First and foremost, the athletes are much, much better. Check this out. And this comes from this article from Yahoo Sports today. All right. In 2010, they had 4 high school sprinters run sub 11 seconds in the 100.
Wow.
That's it.
4. That's it. In 2023, 13 years later, they had 37 sprinters run sub 11 seconds in the 100.
Holy shit.
Athletes are becoming much, much better. The old record in 2010 was a 10.83 in the 100. They had 6 sprinters this year alone go sub 10.7.
Good God. What's going on?
I don't know. I don't know what they're feeding the kids. Now, high school football coaches in Utah say it's just because we got great people out here. Did you read that?
Yeah.
It's like kids get dreams and parents support them. Crazy ass idea. We're the only ones doing it. No, don't necessarily think it's that. The other thing he mentioned in the article, or they mentioned in the article, was just an ability to see these individuals has drastically increased over the last decade, right? You have a much more, it's much easier for you to see these players and see videos of these players and get acclimated with the talent that is available in those areas via social media nowadays, more so than you did in years past.
Could this be because more people are just moving to the state of Utah?
No, I don't think they've seen any type of massive influx in population. At least the article didn't mention anything like that. But the first thing it made me think of is like, damn, no wonder Kyle Whittingham never leaves that job, right? It seems like he's got a really, really talented, player acquisition pool that he doesn't have to leave his backyard for. However, if I set a number, if you had to pick a number and set it on the over-under of the number of players from Utah that the Utes have on their roster, what would you put it at?
I would probably go percentage. I would probably say like 70,
you think
65,
like 70%?
65.
I was going to say like 65.
So that would be like if they have 130 guys on their roster, that's like 90 players.
Yeah.
They have 38 kids.
What?
38 kids on their active roster from the state of Utah.
Really?
Yeah. So most of these NFL football players are coming from mid-majors. They're coming from FBS schools. They're kids that grew up in Utah, went to South Dakota State, went to Utah State, went to, mid-major A, and then balled and became an NFL draft pick. And there's also kids in NW Utah. There's quarterbacks that are coming out of this state at a really, really high rate. But yeah, when I looked at it, he had 38 players on roster from the state of Utah, and he's done an exceptional job of recruiting nationally in specific hotspots, right? Doesn't have kids from Mississippi, doesn't have kids from Kentucky, they're sprinkled in there every once in a while. But the majority of their out-of-state kids are from Florida. They're from Georgia. They're from Texas. A couple Idaho kids mixed in there, and then California. They found these little pockets of the state or of the nation that they can go in and pull guys out of the state. When you first texted this to me, what was the first thing I said? The Samoan population.
Yeah, Samoans.
Right? The Samoan population is where they get most of their offensive line, defensive line guys.
Yeah.
You look at Utah's roster, they're huge, right? And they're huge because they got a lot of Samoans on the roster. However, there is per capita, I think the Polynesian descent in Utah, 30% of it is Samoan based in Utah, where the national average of Polynesian descent is about 7%. So there is a lot higher rates of these. These are just big individual humans. Like, I have not met very many people of Polynesian descent that aren't huge people. Yeah. That's all the islanders, right? All Hawaii, all Polynesia, all Samoa, all those dudes. Big, massive genetic, dating back years and centuries, it feels like. Shout out to The Rock. Shout out to Maui. Shout out to Moana. All that good stuff. But anyways, that's what my first inclination was like, oh, dude, Samoan population, crazy. But I guess those guys kind of get dispersed between BYU and Utah.
The first thing I noticed was there's a lot more people, like football players from the state of Utah at some of these other schools. Like Jackson Dart, did not know he was from the state of Utah, but he was linked in this article. Zach Wilson, obviously, he was a big BYU guy.
And his brother.
Yep.
Who's at Utah now.
It was just very interesting.
Devin Brown.
The reason why I sent it was because it was the second article that I had seen written about this. Now I don't know if there was like an aggregate. I don't know.
Out here playing Utah football stories.
But I was like, saw the first one. I was like, oh, okay. I'll just graze by that one. Then I saw it again from Yahoo, and I was like, okay, I have to take a look into this.
I hate that I've become so entirely skeptic on the planting of stories. But you work in this industry long enough. You can smell a plant. You can smell a plant real quick. That Scott Frost story. Oh my God, plant. Oh my God, plant.
Yeah.
Shout out to the agent that set that one up with CBS. Maybe you get Scott Frost a job in a mid-major. Maybe. We talked about that last night if you want to go watch last night's show. But nah, man, I was kind of taken back to be like, damn, why isn't Kyle Whittingham putting up a metaphorical fence around the state of Utah? He probably should. But then again, if you read it, I think it's like 1 out of every 285 high school football players, or like 1 out of every 285 high school football players in the state of Utah actually play college football. It's a much higher capita than like Georgia. But it's not like a guaranteed hit rate.
Is that also just because like the state of Georgia is so saturated with high school? Like I can't think off the top of my head a high school in the state of Georgia that doesn't have a football team.
Yeah.
Whereas there might be that in Utah where it's not as specialized just because football is not as important there. So you have players that if you do want to play football in high school, you have to go to a certain school. Is that like that's a possibility? I don't know if
it's a possibility. The article also mentioned like the area of Utah is logistically really, really tough to like recruit.
Right.
It's not an easy, I don't know the flight situations to Utah, but I would imagine it's not an easy commute for these East Coast guys. A lot of the guys that recruit out of Utah and the state of Utah are former Pac-12 teams and West Coast teams.
Yeah.
So there's that. But no, super intriguing. Just the idea of the rapid increase. It took them 30 years to get their first 30 players in the NFL draft. They did that in the last 4. That's crazy.
It's crazy.
That's an extreme uptick in the amount of NFL football players in one specific state. We got I keep wanting to call them donor diners. We got donor dinners everywhere. Y'all been seeing these stories?
Donor diners isn't a bad name for it.
Yeah, just call it the diner. where all the donors hang out. If you listen to this show, if you're plugged into the Georgia space specifically, you were made aware of, or you probably were made aware, maybe this is the first time you're hearing this. There was one of these donor dinners at the University of Georgia this past weekend, raised a lot of money. Seems like the roster's going to be attacked because of it, right? That kind of stuff. And we talked about last night about what is a collective, right? And we talked about how outside of Oregon and outside of Miami, where, this Phil Knight guy is a billionaire and he's got unlimited funds, and yeah, your team comes up short $35,000, $100,000 in payroll one month, that's okay, we can make it whole, right? Same thing going on in Miami, where John Ruiz kind of just picks up the tab on all this stuff because he's basically the owner of the football team down there with regards to the payroll and the salary. Well, every other school, these collectives are having to raise a lot of this money. These collectives are having to go out and they are fundraising monthly super PACs in order to pay their rosters, right? In order to pay their salary of athletes. And then we find out today that Dion Sanders and the 5430 Foundation, which is their collective, is running what they are calling the Primetime Elite Booster Dinner. Now, this booster dinner, like I told you, nothing to make fun of. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing these, hey, let's get everybody in, show them some love, get some cash out. Let's get that checkbook out. Let's make sure everybody feels loved, feels liked, and they get out here and they donate some money. However, some of these numbers on some of this stuff is insane. Ridiculous. All right, so here we go. This comes directly from an article from On3. Shout out to On3. We've made jokes about some of the stuff with On3 and the NIL evaluations and all this good stuff. I'll tell you what, nobody's writing as many national reporting articles as On3. They re-report everything. They cover everything. Basically, we start our show notes every day with On3's news page. Like, hey, what's going on nationally? We do the local stuff in-house, but the national stuff, hey, what's everybody talking about? On3's home landing page, a good opportunity to find that. Never thought I'd be running an On3 ad, but hey, credit where credit is due. They're doing a great job. Most expensive tier of this dinner is the VIP Prime Table. For admission to the event has already sold. Okay, so this VIP Prime Table is already sold. The price range on this, $20,000, $20,543. Donors will be able to sit at the same table as Sanders. An individual ticket to this specific diner, just to get in the door, okay, cost $1,053.40. Fans who cannot attend, this is great. Fans who cannot attend can sponsor a plate for $250. And then there are other tiers like this one. There is something called the VIP Prime Table. And then there's the Prime Table, where at the Prime Table, for a prime price of $17,543, boosters will be seated at a VIP table in Sanders' section.
Okay. God.
And all Prime tables will get a group photo with Dion. Okay. And for 10 tickets, so that's what? $1,700 a piece. Mm-hmm. For $1,700 a piece, you can get a group photo with Prime and you can get some good meal. Okay.
What are they serving? Ralphie himself?
I guess, man. I guess they sell some bison burger or something. Then there's the elite table, which, hey, for $17,000, you can get a photo with Prime. For another $17,000, you can sit with 2 Colorado football players.
Wow.
What a thoughtful conversation
deal.
that
You get to eat dinner with the defensive tackle from the Colorado Buffalo for $17,000. Wait, $17,500. Excuse me. Can't forget the half grand.
Probably just got here 2 months ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's also the black and gold table. You can be seated at a table with 2 Colorado coaches or athletes, your choice. 8 tickets for $12,543. And then there's the Buffs table. This is for 10 donors to attend the event. So you can just get a table for $7,500.
That is incredible.
Some steep prices.
And this is sold out.
No. Just the one table with Prime is sold out for almost $21,000.
Jeez.
So you're just paying like $7,000 for dinner?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bro, who's got that? I mean, obviously people have that kind of money, but I can't wrap my head around that.
You must really like Dion Sanders, because no one likes Colorado football that much, right?
Not until last year.
Last year, no. Just a bunch of clout chasers, probably.
I don't know, man. Clout chasers don't come up with $18,000, cuz
No.
You know what I mean?
You got a point.
Like that's some serious big time money right there.
We should start a GoFundMe and try to go.
Do you think it's a good idea for Dion to put this like out? Like this is how much, because I would imagine it was stupid expensive to get a ticket at that Georgia event Friday night. I bet it was dumb expensive. I bet it was something similar to this. Okay, but it's not out there. We don't see it. Now here's the other thing that I found really, really interesting. Again, because I do the reading because you just don't. If you read this article, it becomes very apparent that this is the grand opening of the 5430 Foundation at Colorado. Like it states that this is their kind of grand opening to NIL collective funding, crowdsourced funding, which makes me raise the question of who the hell's been paying the salaries on that roster the last 18 months?
So I saw something in the article where it had been like a conglomeration of different NIL type deals. Like I think one was called like the Black and Gold. And so like all of the 50, 40, 30, whatever it is, it's all of them combining together to make one big collective.
So they had one of these goofy situations where they had 4 or 5 collectives pop up and they're like, hey, I'm going to be the one. Give me the money.
There was like several of them that they were using, and then this one they're like, okay, we're gonna make it one big one.
That happened in multiple places where at the start of this and the idea of collectives everywhere but Tennessee, there was hey, which collective are we getting behind? Well, buddy, you are behind. You are playing catch up automatically, right? If you're having to pick and choose between which collective, that is a divided effort. That is not what we need right now. We need a collective effort, right? We need one big collective, which again, it sounds like they're playing catch up here.
Yeah, just the fact that you're just now getting it to one uniform collective, that definitely gives a sense of like they've been behind the ball for a little bit now. Like they're just now getting this rolling. Interesting though that you would think that Dion would have had this going as soon as he got there.
Yeah, and Dion would go on to say in this article that it's going to cost about $6 to $10 million to establish the roster that he wants.
But they also mentioned something. I thought it was also interesting that they mentioned that they really want to focus on the basketball program too. Like they really want to keep that competitive because they're going to the Big Ten. They're like, we know that Big Ten basketball is a big deal, so we want to make sure the basketball team is still competitive. And there's also something in the article that mentioned, I think it was towards the bottom, about how the price had doubled basically from last year to now this year.
Sorry, I'm reading tweets. I get tagged and stuff all the time nowadays. And sometimes it's important to read them. You never know what's going to be happening. Where do we want to go to next? We want to talk about the anti-Will Howard deep state?
Yeah, what's going on here?
What's your fan club?
Boy, this was nuts. Now, I came on here yesterday and I was like, you know what? They paid a lot of money for Devin Brown 2.0 at the quarterback position. Like limited thrower, good with the legs, big physical guy. Kind of just described Devin Brown, right? That was kind of my feelings on Will Howard. Now, I know what Will Howard like went for on the open market, which per reports, over $1 million. Over $1 million is what he went for. And then today, in the preparations of show notes, I go to CBSSports.com and I go to their homepage, and bam, right there in my face is an article from the folks from CBS Sports, basically titled, "We don't think Will Howard is shit." Like, it wasn't really that, but it was kind of that. It was basically an article that said, is Will Howard an upgrade? Is Will Howard better than Kyle McCord? Which isn't even as far as I took it. What's up?
I just made the connection to all of this.
What's up?
The same person that his name's Tom Fornelli. He's the one that wrote this Will Howard article. I don't know if you saw the video going around, but there's this video of this guy talking about Brock Bowers as an NFL prospect. Yeah. And he said that Brock Bowers, he said, I don't get the value. Like he said, he can't run block well. He's a slot receiver. That's what Brock Bowers is. People do not need to be drafting as a tight end. He said a lot of different things about like, and eventually the guy was like, dude, I think you're wrong. Like, I think you're completely misjudging. Well, he's the same guy that wrote this article about Will Howard. I guess Buddy just...
I don't like my adversaries here. I don't like my adversaries at all. But, however, it wasn't just the slander in the article, which if you read this article, at one point, he not only compares him to Kyle McCord and brings like the hard-hitting data that I'm going to show you here in a second or talk to you about here in a second. But at one point, he also mentions that Avery Johnson kind of pushed Will Howard out of his spot at K-State. Did you read that? Mm-hmm. Where it was like, hey, maybe this guy not only left because he wanted to transfer and get some of that NIL money, but maybe this guy left because he was about to get beat out of his position That was wild for me to read. Now, I know Avery Johnson's got a lot of hype. I know there's a lot of people who believe Avery Johnson's going to be really, really good this year for K-State, but this was like an all Big 12 caliber quarterback, and they were like, hey, didn't necessarily want him. That's what kind of, but that was the messaging in this article. Now, in this article, they go on to say how, the red zone scoring for Ohio State was the major issue last year. They moved the ball relatively well, but when they got in the red zone, they were completely stagnant. And they show the numbers, right? Their red zone drive rate was lower than most. Their red zone success rate was lower than most in terms of the elites in the sport. And then they go on to compare Will Howard's kind of red zone passing stats in comparison to Kyle McCord. Now, do you think this is justifiable? Do you think this is a reasonable thought experiment? Because one guy had Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka and Ohio State's offense, and the other guy was playing at K-State. Like, is this real data that we can apply, or is this guy a little biased?
Well, I think it's a little biased just because as soon as I looked at the numbers and it was like, oh, Will Howard had 8 rushing touchdowns in the red zone, but he didn't have a single passing touchdown. That to me made it very evident that their whole plan was when we get in the red zone, we're going to be making him use his legs. Like, we want him to get, like, that's how we want to use him in the red zone. That's how we want to use him as a quarterback. Whereas Kyle McCord, when you have weapons like that, we want him to pass the ball a little bit more. But so to me, it was like, it wasn't fair. I mean, dude had 29 rushes in the red zone area. So it was very evident that was their plan. Once they got down there, we're just going to hope and pray that Will Howard can punch it in the end zone for us.
The passing efficiency numbers are 179.8 for Kyle McCord, 181 for Will Howard. Completion, oh my God.
Oh, it's putrid.
Dude, the completion rate for Kyle McCord last year in the red zone, 42.1%.
Yucky.
That is awful. Send your ass to Syracuse bad. 31.6% touchdown rate was higher than Will Howard's, but like you said, the running to passing splits were totally different, so it's not that much of a realistic stat. Like you said, the plan for K-State last year was to get that dude in the red zone and then run him into a brick wall. I would imagine same exact game plan at Ohio State this year.
Yeah, a whole lot of read option probably.
Yeah. And I guess I want to pose the question to you guys because I've made my stance very, very clear. Do you think they upgraded the quarterback room?
I said that I didn't think they did at all. I was of belief of like, I think you got the same thing of what you got in Will Howard that you already had in Kyle McCord. I didn't say the Devin Brown thing, but I think I know that they have a little bit of different play styles, but I'm talking about like what the type of output that you're going to get from your quarterback. Getting Will Howard and moving on from Kyle McCord, I think you're going to get someone that is efficient, and I think that you're going to get someone that can hold on to the football for you and whatnot, but I don't think it's going to elevate this offense, but we also have had the conversation of like, he doesn't really have to elevate the offense all that much.
I mean, looking at what Ryan Day has done with this roster going into this season, it's obvious that this team is going to be centered around how well can it run the football. And I think Will Howard is a better runner than Kyle McCord, and I think he is going to be more effective in the run game, especially in the red zone. So if for that, I'd have to say yes, because I feel like we all agree when it comes to passing, it's kind of a wash either way. Like, you wouldn't really want to say Will Howard's better than Kyle McCord or vice versa. But I think just because Will Howard has the advantage in the running game and that this team is going to be geared towards running the football, look at their backfield, look at their offensive line, things such as that, I think they did upgrade just because of the system that you have in place right now.
I think the fact that we're sitting here asking this question, particularly with the hindsight of majority of spring practice reporting out of Ohio State, the fact that we're sitting here asking this question of whether or not they did upgrade at the position already defines whether or not they wasted money.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we and top dollar money too. Like the reports were well over $1 million for this. So this is there, it's a lot of money being spent on a quarterback that they don't know whether or not they're actually improving the roster at that point. So we'll see about that. Already made my joke about Prize Picks and the daily props for NCAA. I get it. I think NCAA games are far more
susceptible
to manipulation, right? Manipulation in the market,
especially when you get to an individual. Like, shaving points in a football game is kind of hard. It's harder than it is in basketball. But when you get to down to, hey, are you going to have so many yards this year? We've seen like kind of with Keyshawn Boutte, that Florida State game where it kind of threw up red flags after he got caught with the fake account, or not the fake account.
5 drops in that game.
Yeah, it was like 5 drops, and it was like, huh. So I think I understand it. I don't love it because obviously Prize Picks and stuff like that, and daily fantasy is very fun to do, especially in college sports. But if I had to lose that to protect the sanctity of the sport as a whole, I'm willing to lose.
Chad Panay.
I like the pasta.
Yeah.
I like it. It's a good one.
Big carbo load there. Not bad. No, I understand it, you know, especially because, yes, college athletes are making money nowadays, but it's not like they're making millions.
No.
They're making compromisable money. You know what I mean?
I mean, if you get
be compromised.
Yeah, if you get the right person in hold of these guys, like they can make 20 a game off for throwing a line or something.
The interesting thing about catching these things, though, right, is it's way easier to catch player prop being fixed than money lines.
It is,
because if you get an influx on one specific player multiple times, that guy's rigging shit, just like the NBA player that just got caught. So I think the good news, and it sucks for people who are getting caught up in this stuff, but the good news is it seems like every time this has happened recently, the player has been caught.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So the what do you call them? The systems in place to make sure this stuff isn't happening and to make sure that our games aren't being compromised, they're working. So
right.
That's a good news about all these stories that come out. You hear it ringing?
No.
Yeah, right, dude.
Too much caffeine, I guess.
But no, there's a ton of systems in place to catch. It's like if you put a bet over $10,000 in Vegas, it immediately gets flagged. So stuff like that. The system's obviously working. It'd be catastrophic if 15 years from now we had some scandal come out where, hey, you know, this game was thrown or something. So,
let's do it real quick. Let's set the line for USC. South Carolina. I think, you know, there's some good reason to believe that Shane Beamer will not survive this season for the Gamecocks. I think there is some good reasoning to believe that, like, midway through the year, this guy might be cooked. So let's figure it out right now. Let's set the bar for South Carolina's football season. I'm going to run through the schedule right now for you. They open the season versus Old Dominion, then immediately at Kentucky, LSU, Akron. Ole Miss at home. They go to Alabama, then follow it up at Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, Missouri. Wrap it up with Wofford and Clemson.
So weird not seeing Georgia on this list.
Isn't it? Very, very weird not seeing Georgia. I bet they're happy, though.
Still didn't catch much of a break, though.
No, they did not. It's pretty brutal. You catch Ole Miss, LSU, Alabama, and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Within the same 4 weeks, right?
Yeah,
LSU,
4 out of 5 weeks.
You go LSU, Akron, Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma in a 5-week run, which is oof.
That might be nailing the coffin.
That might be where Beamer goes. Like, if you
right
have
before the bye week, they play Texas A&M after a bye. They got Oklahoma, so they will go 1-0 against Old Dominion. You presume
you
don't want to automatically give wins. He had a nail biter last year against a mid-major football program. At Kentucky, flip a coin maybe.
Yeah.
But Kentucky, from a addition to the roster standpoint, did a little bit better job this offseason. LSU, you'd imagine they lose that football game. You would imagine they win against Akron. So now you're putting them best case scenario or worst case scenario 1-3, best case scenario 2-2, and then you get into the murderer's row. Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas A&M. You would imagine they lose 3 out of 4 there.
So here's my set the bar for it, and it's not a record. You have to open the season 3-1. You can't. You have to beat either Kentucky or LSU, and obviously take care of Akron, Old Dominion. Then you have to close the season 3-1. You close the season against Vanderbilt, Missouri, Wofford, and then Clemson, obviously. So you have to beat either Missouri or Clemson. Like, that's the only way I think that.
And in the first run, you have to be either Kentucky or LSU.
Right. I mean, that 5-game stretch in the middle is obviously going to be what it is. Like, you're playing a bunch of killers, a bunch of, like, playoff teams in the SEC. So I don't think you should expect too much from South Carolina. I don't think the fans are going to, but you have to at least be 3-1 going into that and 3-1 closing out the season.
It's hard for me to gauge how South Carolina fans feel about Shane Beamer, because there's part of me that feels like they're just kind of okay with what Beamer has to offer for them. But then there's also part of me that feels like there's no way that you can be satisfied as a college football fan going into another year of Shane Beamer where you're sitting here looking at your schedule and saying, yeah, we might open the season 1-3. Like, we might have a losing record and we might be doomed from the very beginning before the season can really even get started. Like, we're already sitting here saying, like, yeah, that's automatically 5 losses on your. Like, there's no way you can be okay with that. But maybe they are.
Do you think he might have made a mistake in the allocation of resources? And here's what I mean by that. It's pretty well noted. He spent a lot of money on Nicholas Harbor. It's pretty well noted they spent a lot of money on Dylan Stewart. It's pretty obvious that every class they kind of push all their chips in on one big, 5-star or one really, really highly touted football player. And we'll see what happens with Dylan Stewart this year. But Nicholas Harbor did not produce results and dividends last year as a true freshman. We'll see what it looks like this year as a sophomore. But when you spend a lot of money on one specific player, that's not the program to do it at, I wouldn't imagine. You need high-quality players all around your rosters, particularly on the offensive line. Now, they spent a bunch of money keeping Cam Pringle in state, the 5-star offensive lineman in 2024, but that kid's got to play, now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they were a Swiss cheese offensive line last year.
Yeah, I do think it is the wrong approach to recruiting for them. I mean, you just want to fill out your roster. Like, South Carolina's goal should be we want to have a well-rounded roster enough to where we can be a toss-up against Kentucky every single year. Like, we could knock off LSU in week 5 or whenever it is, or we could be competitive against Missouri late in the season and give them a run for their money. Like, that should be the goal for South Carolina, not just, well, let's get one 5-star, make it look real flashy for us, and everything's okay until the season kicks off and we're doomed.
I think a South Carolina fan that remembers Steve Spurrier years just threw up in their mouth listening to you say the standard should be competitive against Kentucky or be on par with Kentucky. Yeah. That should make you puke.
Should.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely should.
Football means more in South Carolina than it does in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And you're the only school in the state. Well, no, that's Clemson. But they have Louisville. Either way. And a basketball team to compete with, but things seem to be changing over there now. At the coaching position at Kentucky basketball, but we don't talk a lot of hoops on this here channel. Have we talked hoops at all on this channel? Ever?
We gave a couple shout outs to Mike White when things were going well, but
made a joke about Caitlyn Clark last show. A joke at the expense of Iowa's offense.
We talked about the pool of Caitlyn Clark. What she's been able to do.
Oh, yeah. We talked about the ticket sales going up 300%.
Yeah.
So, there's all kinds of good stuff going on.
So much so that the season ticket holder price for whoever has the number 1 overall pick in the WNBA,
the Fever,
their season tickets next year jumped by $3,000 or something ridiculous.
That's crazy,
like that.
Actually.
Should I be impressed with myself that I know the Indiana Fever have the number 1 overall?
I was impressed.
Yeah, that is impressive.
Good on the marketing team.
Yeah. They're already selling tickets to the they're already marketing, I should say, the Diana what's her name? Diana, the big hooper. Played at UConn. Just talked a bunch of shit about Caitlyn Clark. They're already selling tickets for that one.
Yeah, I can't think of her name. I know who you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But anyways, all right. We got a whole nother hour. It's our local hour. We got a bunch of people here today. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button during our break just right now.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? You like that? You really like that? Let's shut up and grind some tape.
Drew a la carte.
That was a good one.
Who's that parody to?
Drew Aller.
Okay.
Drew Aller cart. Saw some Fat Shab in there. That's a direct hit. You just sunk my battleship right there, brother. Stetson Brisket. There's some good stuff going on up in there. Brock Vandergirth.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's not bad at all right there. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, all that good stuff. We appreciate you for being here. It is our local hour. We got a loaded one for you. We had Gunnar Stockton press conference today. First time we've gotten to him during his Georgia tenure. Some great stuff coming out of that one, including one of the best montages I think you're going to see in quite some time here on the channel tonight. Malachi Starks also have his press conference today. We're going to give him 3. at some point during tonight's local hour. We also have an injury report for you guys. Want to update that tonight as we get ready for G-Day on Saturday. We also got a glimpse of the G-Day roster thanks to Georgia's social media team today, and we are going to set the expectation for Saturday's inter-squad scrimmage between the black team and the red team inside Sanford Stadium. Kickoff is set for 1 p.m. You're not going to be able to watch it on linear television. You're going to have to be going to some of the streaming services. So whether that be ESPN.com, I think that's the only option, right? ESPN has it on their Watch app. Yep. So you're going to be watching it there. The national broadcast is going to be in Tuscaloosa this weekend because way more compelling storylines, I would imagine, for Kaitlyn DeBoer's first spring game out there. Ohio State has a spring game this weekend as well. So a lot to be watching this weekend across the world of college football. A lot of eyes going to be on Athens, particularly in this hour, right? Gunnar Stockton had his press conference today. Want to open up today's local hour with talks about that. We reported on patreon.com/Brooks Austin that Gunnar had basically a perfect practice. Talked about that last week over there on that. If you want a subscription for detailed intel, patreon.com/Brooks Austin. It costs you less than a pub sub. So go ahead, head over there today. And you'll be a well-informed Georgia fan for it. But anyways, we told the audience that. I didn't realize, I just thought it was a perfect grade. I didn't realize he completed every ball he threw that day. I thought there may be an opportunity for, hey, maybe he threw that one away. You still get a positive grade for not, putting the ball at risk. Maybe not everybody won, but he didn't throw an incompletion, he said, during one of his practices.
Grayson Lambert would be proud.
Grayson Lambert.
Hell yeah,
proud.
Dude.
You've been sitting on that one, ain't you?
I just thought of it.
Is that South Carolina 2015?
I don't know. I'm sure Grayson Lambert still tells people about that.
I would. Holy shit.
Yeah. He's the one of the very few Georgia ex-quarterbacks that doesn't steal media jobs from yours truly.
I wonder what he's up to.
There's a bunch of them. That Jake Fromm, man. You better stay away. You better stay away from all my gigs, bro. Better stay away, man. Keep getting your NFL, bro. Keep getting your NFL gigs, man. Spend a decade being a backup. You know what I mean? Be out there doing that. Stay away from my media jobs, bro. Every time an NFL quarterback career dies, there's just one microphone stolen from yours truly. But confirmed a perfect day. I really, really, really liked his answer about waiting his turn at the University of Georgia. And he's not the first quarterback to have to do so, right? Their starter right now waited 3 years at the University of Georgia as a 2, as a 3, as a 2 again. All right. And then eventually got his opportunity to start. And he's made do with those opportunities. Has Carson Beck. Gunnar talked about it today.
I mean, Carson's a perfect example. He's shown resilience, and he's waited his turn, and he's worked hard, and he's proven that he's one of the best quarterbacks, and it's just a privilege to kind of take from him and just get to learn from him. It's pretty awesome.
What has he told you about, I guess, why you should stay, why it could benefit you to be here for the long?
Yeah, at Georgia you're going to win, so that's the biggest part, and you can go to a lot of different places, but there's a lot of things that Georgia has that they can't offer. So that's probably the biggest part.
All right, so there you heard it, right? I think his direct quote was, it paid off for Carson, right? And I think you're going to hear a lot of this moving forward. Now, that's all presuming that Gunnar has been developed behind closed doors, and we'll find a lot about that on Saturday as he gets extended run. But the idea that Carson Beck sat for 3 years and then walked out onto an SEC football field and completed 73% of his balls, and did not look overwhelmed at all. Looked like he was ready to play the position. It says a lot about Carson, but it also says a whole hell of a lot about development at the University of Georgia, in the sense that, hey, this guy clearly got better. Got better behind closed doors, got better without ever playing like real playing time. I wrote in the article today when I released this information, or released the interview with Gunnar today, about how we all know this. The quarterback position is unlike any other, probably in sports, where there's a guy. There's a guy, and then the 2, 3, and 4 have to figure out how to get better basically on their own. Like you're left alone. Like as a 2, you get an opportunity to prepare as a 1 about 20% of the time during the season. But the other 80% of the reps are going to the 1. We game plan for the 1. We decide what we're going to do based off the number 1's abilities. We do all this stuff for the number 1. The number 2, 3, and 4 good luck, Bubba. Like, good luck getting better. You know, that's kind of the approach at most of these programs. What Carson did last year speaks volumes about their ability to do these things behind closed doors. You don't have to play at Georgia to get better at that position, where every talking point everywhere. We even see it on the NFL level. Oh, you got to get these guys out. Like, you got to play them. You got to play them. You got to play them. Well, Bryce Love sat, and he did really well. Aaron Rodgers sat, he did really well, right? There's Pat Mahomes sat, he did really well. There's plenty of examples of this going on, but there's most of the time people are like, hey, Josh Allen got better because he sucked for 16 weeks. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then the second year, there was tremendous growth because he had that opportunity to suck. Peyton Manning broke the NFL rookie record for interceptions. He got growing pains. He got an opportunity to suck. Sometimes you need that opportunity to suck. But at Georgia, with Carson, it paid off.
I mean, it's kind of been a trickling effect a little bit. I mean, Stetson kind of had this thing, too, of how he kind of waited his turn. I know it's a very different circumstance of what Carson did. It wasn't, I mean, Stetson bounced to JUCO, and then he came back, then he waited a little bit. But I remember Stetson's conversation with you about, he would talk about, like, when I'm on the sideline, I'm trying to figure out my throwing motion, like what's come from me, trying to figure those things out. Well, I can, and then when I can go and I try and replicate that. So I think it's kind of been a trickling down effect of Stetson did it, and that's what Carson saw. Then Carson did it. That's what Gunner is seeing now. And now Gunner's about to implement it himself and put it into quantifiable game time.
Look, it sounds like, Carson waited his turn, and not that Brock couldn't, but Brock couldn't. The timetable didn't work for Brock Vandagriff. Brock Vandagriff knows he needs 2 years of starting experience. He's not going to get that at Georgia. He's going to have to sit this year, and he's only got 1 year of eligibility had he stayed. So he goes to Kentucky. He's going to start there 2 years, and he's going to have an opportunity to play on Sundays if he does well. The opportunity is there for Gunner to do the same thing at the University of Georgia. I wholeheartedly believe the fall of 2025, Gunner Stockton will get his opportunity to be the guy at this university. And even if and when, and it's not if, when they take another quarterback in the transfer portal. And that's something he talked about today, about how Kirby Smart and this channel has been very upfront and honest with you. They are taking a quarterback in the next 20 days. Okay, in the next 21 days, there will be another quarterback on Georgia's roster. There is no doubt about it in my mind. Gunner talked about that today, about, hey, man, look, like, they have told us, they've been very honest with us. There's somebody coming.
Yeah. Coach Smart's always said he wants 4 quarterbacks and scholarship quarterbacks on the roster, and heck, that's what it probably should be. And at the University of Georgia, I mean, as a quarterback, why not? Why not would you want to come here? So, heck, it should be a battle and competition and everything. So it's awesome.
I mean, as a quarterback, why not? Why not would you want to come here? So, heck, it should be a battle. It should always be a competition at quarterback here at the University of Georgia. That right there. Now, I don't know how much of this is like really well-taught lip service. I really don't, because they are media trained better. I mean, he almost caught himself. He did catch himself slipping at one point in that press conference. If you go listen to it, he's like, oh, I can't say that. And then he retreads, right? These guys are extremely well media trained. So there's no ifs, ands, or buts about whether or not they've had the conversation of putting a front on, right? Go up there, say the right thing. Don't say what you're thinking sometimes. But I truly believe that this is the way this gentleman thinks about this competition, or thinks about his opportunities at the University of Georgia of, hey, this is Georgia. There's going to be a competition. I knew that when I signed up to come play here.
Yeah, I mean, going back to, he wanted his black jersey off at the start when he's a freshman. Like, he's always seeked competition, and you're going to get that at Georgia because they bring in some of the best players in the nation everywhere you go. So it makes sense as to why he enjoys this type of competition and why he's okay with having to wait, or not necessarily being the number one guy as soon as he got there. But it's obvious that he's this type of competitive guy, and he really enjoys it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and we could say this about Georgia because we've seen it with multiple players now. Like, it's obvious, like, it may just be lip service, but it's also something that they believe. They're just sitting up there and they believe what they're saying. They feed off of the competition. And we say it's a requirement that you need to come play football at the University of Georgia at any position. Like, you have to seek out competition. And obviously these football players do, and they really have at the quarterback position. They're more than okay with it.
One thing I wanted to know, and we're not going to get an answer on it Saturday. We did against Florida State, and we did before TCU when reports came out and Kirby told us that they took the non-contact jersey off of Gunner. This is a football player that becomes a different version of himself when bullets are live. Like, when he has the ability to take off and run, when he has the ability to convert the sticks with his legs, he chooses to do so pretty frequently. Like, this is a guy that is going to get 8 to 9, like, not traditional carries, but runs. Like, he's going to run the ball 8 or 9 times a football game when he actually plays. And I guarantee you, very similar to Stetson, those 8 or 9 rushing opportunities, they're either going to be explosives or really important conversions, right? If you guys remember, when Stetson used his legs, it was in the red zone on read options, right? Oh, defensive end, you just dove in. Well, I'm walking into a touchdown. All right, 3rd and 12. Y'all are playing cover 2 man, so meaning the 2 safeties are going to drop in the middle of the field. Everybody else is playing man coverage. Okay, well, we're going to run a bunch of outward routes, everybody to the sideline. We're going to run quarterback draw against Auburn, and we're going to take it for 55 yards. Those types of plays, they're going to be in the playbook when Gunnar Stockton is the starting quarterback at some point at the University of Georgia. You can't see that stuff on Saturday. He's going to be in a non-contact jersey. So I wanted to ask him, like, hey, do you ever wish, like, take this off of me. Let me play ball. His immediate answer was, I see those big jokers I have to practice against every day. He said big jokers, by the way.
Big jokers.
Shout out. Said big jokers, and then said basically, like, I wouldn't survive if every day was a non-contact day for me. So I just wouldn't survive. So no, I'm happy that there is a non-contact jersey there. And also, by the way, this is a football player that probably, and very similar to Vandegrift, views it as an opportunity to get better at pocket management, throwing from the pocket, executing from the pocket, because we know that's where you live on Sundays.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It definitely would be fun to see it on G-Day, just to kind of get a glimpse of it. But, glad we got to see it against Florida State, though, see him in action and see some live bullets, finding him getting to do that. But I mean, I am excited to see, like, the development for him as a passer. I think G-Day is one of those things that, like, you have to take everything with a little bit of grain of salt, but I think G-Day is one of those events specifically for the quarterback position where you can really see the growth of a quarterback and exactly see how they are processing things and see if they're comfortable. That's the biggest thing, is you can see if they're comfortable out there on the field. You can immediately tell typically when they get out there, like, either they know it or they don't.
Here's the evaluation for me. Do you process your reads?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are you clicking through them? Right. And it's very apparent to see quarterbacks who are clicking through and quarterbacks who are, he's not open, pull down, let's go. Okay. Those guys don't ever survive at Georgia. They just don't. Like, they don't play for an extended period of time. So Saturday, what I want to see from Gunnar, and what I think Gunnar has developed further and further and further and further during his time, and he's gotten a ton of reps this spring and ton of reps leading up to spring practice. He's going to get a ton of reps on Saturday. I want to see him processing through his reads. That guy's closed. Let's work to 2. Let's work to 3. Maybe 2's open. Let's go to 2. Well, next time, let's go 1, 2, 3 check down. I want to see those things. That's the area of development I'm most looking forward to seeing. But yeah, he has been taking a ton of reps this spring. Obviously, we reported on this channel that Ryan Puglisi has been a little bit banged up, continues to be a little bit banged up. Therefore, the rep share for Gunnar has been drastically increased over particularly like the last week and a half up at Georgia. But the most important takeaway from the Gunnar Stockton press conference today, that boy loves the word heck. He really loves the word heck. It is his filler word. Check this out.
I mean, heck, yeah, heck, it's just heck, it's a heck, it's funny, heck, just.
Heck, how many hecks did you count?
It was 20.
20 hecks.
20 hecks.
20 hecks.
20 hecks in an 11-minute interview.
Yeah, an 11-minute press conference. 20 hecks.
That might be the favorite thing I've produced for this show.
Yeah, one more time for the hard effort from Christian Kirby, the production team, on the heck compilation.
I mean, heck, yeah, heck, it's just heck, it's a heck, it's funny, heck, just heck.
My favorite heck was the just heck. He said just and then went into heck. Just heck.
I like the heck.
Yeah, heck. Yeah, loves the word heck. Otter.ai is a alternate artificial intelligence service that you can put an MP4 in and it will try to transcribe everything that's going on in the MP4. Otter was having an absolute duck stroke trying to figure out Rabun County accent.
Doesn't speak Rabun.
No, they do not. They do not speak Rabun County. They were having a freak out session listening to that one. Mm-hmm. For some reason, heck kept getting translated into let's get.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Same amount of syllables, so that makes sense. No, it's not the same amount of syllables. I saw you counting.
I had to think.
I saw you counting with your head.
What am I going to do? we're learning the ABCs in the house.
Oh, nice.
Do you have to start your ABCs over? Like if L comes up and you're like, oh, what letter's next? I know it's M and O P, but is there any point in the alphabet where you kind of have to start A, B, C, D, and then you get into the rhythm of where that letter is before and after?
No, but if I'm saying them backwards, I have to always say like up to that letter.
Yeah.
I can't say them backwards.
That's kind of me with like most of the middle letters.
Yeah.
Like anything JKLM, anytime in there, I got to do the EFG HIJK, and then I figure, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I got to go back to a starting point and then go from there. So yeah, that's kind of how my brain works. Just thought, we'd have the conversation.
Yeah.
One day we'll talk about how you prefer to wipe your butt. All right. I think everybody wipes their butt differently. I didn't realize until I was an adult that there's like multiple ways to wipe your butt. I thought the way I was doing it was autonomous, the only option. It's not the case. We'll talk about it someday. I'm curious. Super chat. Good look there. All right, let's go back up to the super chat. Bring the Bear to Boulder, Colorado so he can be coached by the best defensive tackle to ever play. Dubious. Is Warren Sapp the best defensive tackle to ever play? I go best nose tackle.
People are saying Reggie White.
I would classify him as a defensive end, not a defensive tackle. Best defensive tackle ever to play is Aaron Donald.
That's what
I don't.
But I mean,
we'll get called millennials
Jones,
for it. But
yeah, we'll probably get called.
No, Aaron Donald is the GOAT.
Yeah, Aaron Donald is the GOAT. But hey, shout out to the super chat and shout out to the Buffaloes. Yeah, I mean, I can't believe Colorado fans are in the chat. That's awesome. Appreciate you guys being here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, review. Where were we at? We were talking about Malachi Starks, or we were about to. I was transition. Malachi Starks was also made available to the media today. And I thought the most poignant discussion topic that came out of this was the fact that Malachi Starks played at an All-American level last year, and he played the entire season with a shoulder injury. That's what was revealed today. He said that he obviously had surgery in January. Kirby Smart let us know that his very first press conference this spring. But he had surgery after the Florida State game, and he was asked about the timetable of his injury, and he did say, I felt something go wrong during fall camp. Week 3 or 4, it got really bad. We decided that surgery was the only option after the Alabama game. I chose to delay the surgery until after Florida State.
Jeez.
That's a football guy, man.
That's a football lover.
That is a football guy right there. And here's how, and I'm not saying you have to be like this, but I knew Malachi Starks only cared about the really, really super important and didn't care about the hoopla, if you will. Is it hoopla or hoopla?
I don't think it's a word, so I think you can say it however you want.
Shout out. Didn't care about all the hoopla that comes with like things like 7-on-7s. Didn't really do the camp circuit very hard. Kind of just camped at schools. Played football, ran track. Kind of kept to his own. Lived in and stayed in Jefferson, and just kind of didn't do much outside of that. There wasn't, we're going to travel around and play with this 7-on-7 team this weekend, and then next week we're going to go here, and then we're going to take this visit here. We're going to take all 5 official visits. That wasn't the deal. This was a guy who really only cared about the main thing, and that's what he talked about today. When he chose Georgia, NIL wasn't really a huge contributing factor to where you decided to go to college. This was a different time period 2 or 3 years ago, 2 or 3 cycles ago. It was a very different time period. What?
It's just so weird to think that, like 2 years ago, NIL didn't matter.
Yeah, 24 months ago, decisions weren't made based off checks. Nowadays, it seems to be the only thing that it is about. So he talked about that the main thing was always the main thing for him, and it remains that way now. And the main thing being, let's get to the league. Like, he was very aware that where he wanted to go, and how you go about getting there is very and the school you select is very important in the cultivation process of how you get to the league. If I remember correctly, it was between Clemson and Georgia, and those were the only 2 real options. I think Alabama might have had a shot there for a little while, but it was really, am I going to go play at Clemson, or am I going to go play at Georgia for 3 years before I'm a first-round draft pick? That was kind of the mindset with Malachi coming out of college. That he also said that this is the longest time he's ever been out of football.
Jeez.
This is the most he's ever missed from a practice perspective.
It's kind of hard to believe, considering he's a 2-way football player all throughout high school, played both ways. So that's hard to believe that he's made it this long before it took this for him to miss that much time.
Missing 3 months is the most time he's ever. That's insane.
Yeah, he's been injury free for a long time, even though Gunnar Stockton almost made him quit football that one time.
Yeah.
You heard that story?
Yeah, I have.
I don't know if the audience has. They were on the Players Lounge Players podcast, and Malachi Starks talked about Gunner and how when they were playing rec ball against each other, both Northeast Georgia players, very well acquainted in the rec ball circuit from a very young age, said that he got hit. By Gunner and almost contemplated quitting football. Gunner was playing safety at the time.
Love stories like that. It is cool that some of these players can like date back all the way to like rec league days of playing against one another and have prolonged relationships.
Yeah, I thought the other really interesting thing that he talked about was how he's learning the game, to see the game from a different perspective now that he's not practicing. When he said when you're playing and you're playing safety, you know what you're supposed to do. You know what the guy next to you at safety is supposed to be doing. Whoever's in front of you, you know what they're supposed to do. But you don't really see the whole field. You don't get the perspective of why everything happens, right? We talked about knowing what to do, how to do it, and why we do things, right? Well, he's always been good at knowing what to do and how to do them. He's great at those things. He's a great athlete. He's super smart. But now it sounds like he's finally figuring out the why as to what we do. And one of the smartest football players I've ever watched on tape and had the opportunity to talk to about the game of football was J.R. Reed. And J.R. Reed's third year at the University of Georgia, in the role of safety, he was changing so much stuff. The hit on Eric Stokes had against Tennessee, that was a call J.R. Reed made from safety in the middle of the pre-snap read. Like that's how far in advance some of these football players get during their time at Georgia. And this is a football player in Malachi that's going to play like that, I would imagine, this fall.
That's a big impact, especially for a safety room that just lost two meaningful guys in that secondary. And so having a guy like Malachi, if he can be eyes and ears for multiple people on that football team on the field, that can make a tremendous difference for you, especially because some of the secondary, you might be starting some younger guys. I mean, you might be having an Ellis Robinson who's a freshman. And, like, if you can see those things for them and you can impact the game from your position for multiple people, I mean, that's a huge difference.
You know who did this as a true freshman last year?
It's a true freshman. CJ Allen?
True freshman?
Not a Georgia player.
Oh. Caleb
Downs.
Caleb, you can see it on tape. There are plays on tape that are as obvious as day where Terrion Arnold or JaQuincy McKinstry turn around and they go like this to Downs, and Downs is like, hold on. He gives them the hand, and then he looks at the other side of the field and tells them what to do, and then comes back over here and tells them what to do. Savant.
That's sick.
Football savant. And I think that's the level of football acumen that we're going to see from Malachi. And that's the difference between, like, people are going to ask about the difference between Malachi and Caleb, or who's the better football player. From a physical traits standpoint, they do not make safeties other than Kyle Hamilton that are more gifted than Malachi Starks.
Right.
They just don't. From a ball skills perspective, movement patterns perspective, top end speed, twitch, athleticism, all that good stuff. But from a who's the smart, like who is just like a coach on the field at all times, is Caleb Downs. Like that's one of the smarter football players I've ever been around that didn't play quarterback. But if you asked him to, I bet he could pick up an offensive system like that. His brain just works like that. It always has. Son of a coach, real lunch pail guy. So there's that going on there. But no, I thought there was a lot of good stuff in that Malachi Starks interview, including he talked about, the obvious question was, why were you waiting to have your surgery? Like after Alabama, if you get your surgery, maybe you're back for spring practice. And his immediate answer was, I knew that was the last opportunity I had to play with that group. Unless we get drafted by the same team on the next level, that is the last time I'll ever line up next to Javon Bullard. That is the last time I'll ever line up next to Kamari Lassiter. That is the last time, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It meant something to him to go out there and play in that football game. And that's, and he said other guys opt out, and that's fine. But the mission was not complete, and I had to go play ball.
And that's why I believe it's not just lip service when they get up there and they say these things, because they're right there is an example that they believe that they want to play and that those are their choices that they are making. It's not just Kirby Smart standing in front of them on his soapbox saying like, oh, it's important to play. It's important to show up for this football game. It's important to end the season on the right way. Yes, it is that. It is Kirby Smart's ability to deliver a message and for players to buy in, but they also just have kids that love this football game. They love their teammates and they love the program that they play for.
He talked about it SEC Media Days last year. So we have two criteria, right? It's, are you selfless and do you love football? Or weren't those the two check marks you have to make, right? Are you able to put yourself second? Are you able to put others in front of yourself? And do you love this game? Yeah, that's a priority box to be checked at the University of Georgia. Do you absolutely love this game of football? Also got Cole Speer and Terrell Foster.
Ooh.
Yeah, some real hard hitters. I thought the Cole Speer interview was really, really good. The Terrell Foster interview was like 6.5 minutes. Not a lot of. I think I asked 4 questions in Terrell's interview.
Oh, really?
Nobody was asking questions. So I almost like felt bad. You feel bad in those situations. You're like, hey man, this kid has not had an opportunity to talk to the media. Let's make sure we at least get him to 10 minutes. That's my threshold. It's like, let's just get this kid to 10 minutes. Let's not cut it off at 6.5 and run out of questions, which is what happened today. But I thought the Terrell Foster interview was important for me because anytime I get to talk to a linebacker, you know what I'm asking. Tell me about that genius, bro. Tell me about that Glenn Schumann guy. And I ask almost all of them the same thing. Has there ever been a moment where he comes to you and brings you a nugget of information and you're just like, God dang, this dude's a genius? And his answer was quintessential pretty much every day. Pretty much every day, Glenn Schumann will say something in meetings where I'm like, A, I've never thought of that. B, I've never heard that. C, oh my God, holy crap, you're smart. So that was, he said, not a day goes by that guy doesn't teach you something about the position that he's been playing at Georgia now for 3 years, going on 4. But the Cole Speer interview was interesting to me because I wanted to know, because Cole's one of many at the University of Georgia. Not one of many, but he's one of a lot where, you might have a UTC offer, or you might have all the academies offers, right? You might have maybe Georgia Tech has popped. And like you're a mid-major football player and you look like you're going to go to a mid-major football team, and then your senior year, Georgia shows up on your doorstep. Georgia, not Kentucky, not Tennessee, not Mississippi State, not one of these lesser, quote unquote, lesser than recruiting profile schools in the SEC. No, it went from I might be going to UTC to I have an offer from the University of Georgia. Like that there's multiple guys. Lad McConkey, an example of this, right? Ja'Cory Thomas, an example of this. Guys that Georgia discovered. And Georgia said, you're good enough to play for me, when the rest of the conference, when the rest of Power 5 football was like, who's that kid Georgia just offered? It happens every single class. It's going to happen very soon with a kid out of straight North Georgia. Cal Faulkner, I think is the kid's name. It's going to happen with him. He's going to pop a Georgia offer, and he doesn't have a Power 5 offer anywhere. They found him. Found this little diamond in the rough. So this is one of these football players, and I wanted to know, like, hey, dude, you are, every single time one of these kids makes a decision like this, like Cole Speer, to come to Georgia, you are a kid who passed up obvious, immediate playing time at a mid-major school to come here and fight your ever-loving life off for 5 years to crack the lineup. And his answer was quintessential Georgia, right? If you want to work hard and win championships, then why wouldn't you come to a place like this? Also, it's not guaranteed going to other places, right? Going to other places that you're going to win like this, or you're going to be developed like you are at Georgia. It was very important for him over the 4 or 5 years. He did not prioritize playing time. He prioritized development. Who is going to maximize me as a football player during my 4 or 5 years at that university?
Always good to get like unique perspectives of that, because I mean, obviously he could play somewhere else, but he's choosing to go the route of being at Georgia, and maybe eventually you crack the lineup at Georgia and you're able to get some reps. We don't
address a lot of comments unless they're super chats. We have a bunch of show notes to get through. There's a question right here from Sharice Armistead, and I hope I didn't mispronounce your name. Is this a Georgia YouTube channel? Yes and no. Every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday during the offseason, every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday during the season, we are a national podcast, a national channel from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, we flip it over to a strictly local hour. I hope I don't lose you here based off that. So yeah, first hour, national college football talk. Second hour, pretty strictly Georgia football talk. We are a channel, or at least I was a channel, that was a strictly Georgia football network. Through various different companies trying to approach me about leaving this market to become a national voice, I decided, well, if I want to give national opinions, I'll give them on my platform, and I'll grow my platform, and we'll try this experiment under our regime. So that's what we did. I brought on Jonathan Williams. I brought on my boy Christian Kirby, and now we talk as much or more national college football concepts and talk. We give it 3 hours during the offseason, 4 hours during the regular season. I'm pretty sure that's more than anybody else. I don't like to do that, but yeah, we do a lot. We do a lot of national topics here. So yeah, go definitely hit that subscribe button, even if you aren't a quote unquote Georgia fan. But yeah, because I think we do it as well and perhaps better than anybody else in terms of just talking college football, and we definitely enjoy doing so. That's why we pump out as much content as we do. But yeah, welcome into our local hour. It's 33 minutes in now into this local hour. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate, review. And we got a bunch of people in here tonight. We appreciate you being here. If this is your first time with us, reach into that pew in front of you, grab that welcome card via subscription. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. A little Southeast baptism for you right there here via the Film God Network channel. So appreciate you guys for being here. Hey, let's give them 3 right quick. 3 questions that you want answered this weekend, boys. I will go first. Number 1 question I have: who is edge number 2? Okay. Now, I think it's very important we have a discussion about the University of Georgia's defensive end and edge room. Okay. If you are 6'5", 265 pounds, you are getting an offer nowadays from the University of Georgia at this position. Okay. And I think the reason being, where we went through this run where from Azeez Ojulari until Chaz Chambliss, you signed a bunch of sub 6'3" guys, sub 245 pound guys, high end twitch, minus the Chaz, high end twitch, super bendy, super good edge rushers, can also drop in space. Okay, but the mold has changed. The mold has changed at this position, particularly since Uzo Duribe has taken over as the edge position coach at the University of Georgia, or the quote-unquote outside linebackers position coach. Nowadays, they recruit strictly 6'5 plus, 265 plus, with some, slight changes to the mold. Every once in a while, a Sam Mpemba shows up on your doorsteps. You take that guy. You figure him out, right? You get that guy on your roster and you figure him out. Sounds like that one's going to hit this spring and this fall as well. But most of the time, you are talking about 6'5", 265 pounders that are elite edge rushers but carry defensive end bodies. Right. So I think nowadays at the defensive end and edge or jack position, right? That's what most people know it as, that outside linebacker position, they've kind of become one. All right. Their bodies at least look like one. All right. The mold right now is Michael Williams. Find me a guy who can play defensive end, and then on third down, we can play jack. Or on first down, we can play him at jack, and we can put Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins at the other defensive end. Find me a Gabe Harris. Is Gabe Harris a defensive end, or is Gabe Harris an outside linebacker? He's probably both. Right? He's probably both. He's built like both. Damon Wilson, much more of an edge rusher, right? So you have these kind of body types nowadays at the edge position, but I want to know who's number 2. We won't get to see Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins, who I believe this fall is going to be the number 2, like defensive end / edge rusher. But who is the other guy that's going to be super disruptive on, on the team with Michael? Like, because you got to have 2 of them nowadays, or else you're going to get a lot of attention drawn to the singular guy that's an elite football player. So who's it going to be? Is it going to be, guys like Damon Wilson? Is it going to be Sam Mpemba that flashes on Saturday? Is it going to be Gabe Harris? Is it going to be Chaz Chambliss? Who's going to be that other edge rusher? That's one of my primary questions. And then my other one, the freshman that can make a difference this fall. I think we get a little bit of an answer on this. We've heard a lot about KJ Bolden. We've heard a lot about Ellis Robinson. We've heard a lot about Daniel Calhoun from an open perspective, right? Kirby Smart has even talked openly about several of these freshmen. But who's going to be the freshman that surprises us? That's my question I want to get answered on Saturday. I think I have a selection. I think Zacoby White's going to surprise a lot of people. If you've been reading and keeping up on patreon.com/Brooks Austin, you would already know this information. He was virtually unguardable during the bowl practices. He has continued to be a real mismatch and a real bitch to tackle after the catch during his time briefly at the University of Georgia. So that's my other one. And then number 3, and I think this might be the most important one for me. Does Bobo call plays for both teams? And this is why it's important to me. I have a suspicion that Todd Hartley one day might want to be an offensive coordinator. And the only reason I have that suspicion is because he's been sitting right hand and literally front and center next to the offensive coordinator for 3 seasons now, going on 4. So Saturday, do we hear that Bobo calls one team and Todd Hartley calls the other one, just to give Todd Hartley some experience in play calling? That would be something that I'm on the lookout for, and it would be a direct sign to me that Todd Hartley might have aspirations to do something? Or is Todd Hartley's aspirations to take the Dale McGee route? Because those are the only two routes, right? You're either the best position coach in the world at what you do, and then you become a mid-major head football coach, unless you're Sam Pittman and you get blessed with Arkansas. Or are you going to go, the offensive coordinator route and then get a massive Power 5 job once you win and prove that you're going to be an offensive coordinator, kind of like the Buster Faulkner route that he's in the midst of right now? Hey, give him 3.
You want to go? You can go second.
All right, I'll go second. So this is the obvious one. What are the wide receivers going to look like? All through spring, all leading up to it, all in the offseason, it's been these wide receivers look great. This is the best unit Georgia's ever had. This might be the year they have the 1,000-yard receiver. It's almost gotten repetitive to the point of, hey, this is the year we have the elite wide receiver room. Not that the receiver rooms of the past have been bad, but this might be the year in particular. So obviously we're going to see on Saturday what it looks like. So that's going to be one of the first questions I have. I feel like that's kind of an obvious one. What is the offensive identity of this team going to be? How are you going to utilize Oscar Delp? How are you going to utilize Lawson Lucky? What kind of formations are you going to run? Where is your X going to be? Certain things such as that. Just because you don't have a lot of the workhorses you had last year. You don't have a Brock Bowers. You don't have a Lad McConkey. Even though he wasn't available for a lot of last season, he was a major part of your offense. So the way that your offense is going to run is going to look differently. I think you're going to get a first kind of hint at to what it's going to be for the 2024 season. And then the third one I have is, what does Anthony Evans look like returning kicks? Obviously, we saw last year in the spring game, Mekhi Muse kind of put it on and kind of turned a lot of heads. I think Anthony Evans has the opportunity to do this a lot. He did it in the SEC Championship, so Anthony Evans is going to be in for a big day, I think.
Hey, that boy Christian Kirby, give him 3. What do you got for me, Jay Will?
What does Dalen Everett look at star? How does that look? Yeah, I'm excited. That's probably the thing I'm most excited for G-Day, honestly. It's just because, this is the first time that we've had a defensive back corner, play corner, then make the switch to star, like we presume he's going to be making the switch to star. I'm just excited to see what that looks like, see if maybe he looks a little more comfortable, if they're able to do a lot more things, if they're able to really tap into his ceiling at that position. I'm excited to see what Dalen Everett looks like at that position. Also, just anybody else who lines up at star, excited to see what looks they give there.
Fun fact on Dalen Everett: I was talking to somebody the other day about him playing star. And the conversation about Tyke got brought up, right? And the source I was talking to said, if Tyke Smith ran a 4.47 at the NFL Combine, Dalen Everett's going to run 4.21. Yeah, Dalen Everett is way more physically gifted than I think a lot of people give him credit for. They also like Dalen a whole lot more than their fan base does, which is kind of one of those things. If you're the offensive coordinator or you play corner at Georgia opposite of the NFL guy, everyone thinks you suck. And it's just the way it goes, the way she goes.
Yeah, it is. My second one, what does a year difference for C.J. Allen and Raylan Wilson look like? Because if freshman year C.J. Allen looked that good, then year 2 is probably going to be even better, and that overall linebacking core is going to be a whole lot better as well. And also Raylan Wilson, seeing more reps from him, especially because Small Mondon is not going to be playing on Saturday, so we're going to get a really good look at Raylan Wilson. I'm excited to see reps spread across the linebacker room as a whole, but specifically those two guys, because it seems like this is the time of year when you're under Glenn Schumann and you make that second year jump to your sophomore year after getting some reps your freshman year. That's where we really start to see just how great are you, just how special are you going to be at this position. So those two guys, I'm going to be really honing in on them, watching them play some defense on Saturday. Then my last one, you mentioned the wide receiver group as a whole. I want to specifically highlight Dylan Bell. I want to see how creative Mike Bobo is going to get with him and just kind of see how are they going to utilize him in the offense? What kind of ways are they using him to get him some shots? Is it going to be in a really explosive manner? Is it going to be how in the world are you going to use him? Because I think there's a lot of opportunity for Mike Bobo to get really creative with him, put him in a lot of different spots, put the defenses in some really tough positions just because of him, because you can move around all across the field and put him in different places. I think Mike Bobo is going to have a great opportunity to do that.
My question to you about Dylan Bell is utilizing him in a G-Day type sense something you don't want to do because you don't want to show it, or has he already been on film so much?
Stick his ass at X. Don't get funky.
Yeah.
Stick his butt at X. I wouldn't even use pre-snap motion on Saturday.
Okay.
Don't even. And is that line up, play football.
And is that because you just keep it vanilla, keep it simple? You don't want to have to overextend anything, or you've already put the film out there. People know what Dylan Bell has the potential to do. Yeah,
but people don't know what Dylan Bell is going to look like without Brock Bowers on the field and an extensive run. Okay. And they also don't know Like last year, you morphed into a strictly inline 11 personnel team when Brock went out, right? Whereas, you could get into some 12 out of 3-by-1 when Brock was on the field, which really stressed defenses. It was the whole point that you have this kind of slot. He is a tight end, but he is getting loose in the slot. And then, they have this inline tight end in Delp, or insert Darnell Washington at its maximum, right? Where they're still in a plus run count in the box, and we still don't know how to guard this other guy out here. I don't know how to guard this other guy out here. I believe this year will be Dylan Bell, and they will move him in a variety of different ways. They will use him in a variety of different ways. It will be vanilla on Saturday. Yeah. There is no doubt about that. And we'll talk about that in expectations coming up here in just a little bit. Hey, that boy Jay Will, give him 3. What is going on here?
Oh. You're getting blown up tonight, huh?
Yeah, man. It's a crazy night to be my phone. It's like that all the time, though. It's supposed to be. That's good news. When the phone is hot, there's plenty to talk about. You know what I mean? It's not always good news. And sometimes we get hot mic'd like we did with the Marvin Jones situation.
Never going to live that down.
No, you won't. But, some people thought we planted that. Some people were like,
maybe I did.
Maybe you did. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't.
Jay will knew what you were going to say.
Yeah.
I was ahead
I
of
know
the
what that text message is. It must be about Marvin Jones in the middle of December. Man, that was a bad time to be me. I was sweating after that one. I got multiple phone calls after that one. What you know? Who are you talking to? I don't know nothing.
Plead the fifth.
I'll plead fifth. We need to give an injury report. Okay, I want people to know who is available, who is not available. I want you to have some reasonable expectations for what you're going to see on Saturday. Most notably, okay, you are out 3, maybe 4, depending on how you classify the 4th guy here. You're out 3 starters on the defensive side of the football alone, 1 at each individual level, right? Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins obviously hasn't been available all spring, had foot surgery on that, issue that he played through last fall. Smile Mondon, same thing, foot surgery, is not going to be available. He was on a scooter when we saw him at media availability. And then obviously in the back end, Malachi Starks is not going to be available for spring practice. Branson Robinson has not been practicing. Bo Hewley had a shoulder surgery. Chris Jones had a knee operation entering his freshman year, foregoed the back end of his senior year to have that surgery. He was a limited participant. I do not expect him to play on Saturday. So those are the kind of guys we knew about coming into the spring. I think you're going to be down another safety. I gave that safety's name on patreon.com/Brooks Austin. Don't feel like bringing it out here front and center because we got ops hopping. But there's that. And then I expect Ryan Puglisi to, at best case scenario, be limited. More than likely, probably not going to be a participant on Saturday during G-Day. So there's that. Outside of that, boys, it seems like you've been a relatively healthy football team this spring. At least nobody has had a season-ending injury. Those are the things that get leaked out. Now, does somebody miss Saturday because they have a knee sprain that we didn't get covered or we didn't get told or we weren't made aware? Yeah, it's the University of Georgia. It's like trying to get information out of a CIA op every time I'm on the phone. So it's really, really hard to do my job from an insider's perspective. That's why I truly believe this beat has some of the best beat reporters and guys who grind this stuff better than anybody else because it's an extremely hard place to get sourced information out of.
And I don't want to say this in a bad way, but I think that the injuries have happened at positions where in a good way of you need reps at those positions. As much as we would love to see Ryan Puglisi this Saturday, Gunnar Stockton, that's what we need to see. That's what we need. We need to see an ample amount of reps of Gunnar Stockton on Saturday. Linebacker like Small Mana not being available, that's okay because we need Raylan Wilson, we need CJ Allen, we need all of those freshman linebackers. We need to see them on the field. Branson Robinson, as much as we want you back in that backfield right now, we want to see Trevor Etienne participate. We want to see another year of Roderick Robinson. We want to see some of these freshman running backs that are already on campus. Those are the types of things that we want to see. So as much as it sucks that we don't get to see Malachi Starks on Saturday, that we don't get to see Puglisi slinging around the football field, I think they've kind of happened at positions where it's okay because it's also a place where we need reps.
Do you guys remember if Marcus Rasimi-Jacksaint got to play in the spring game last year?
I can pull up the stats and probably.
I don't think he did.
Please do, because that
I
was
have it right now. I can pull it up right here.
That was a very similar arrest.
He had 1 target,
so he did play. That was when did he get in trouble last year? Was that after the spring game or before? The reason I'm asking is because the chat's blowing me up about Trevor Etienne, whether or not he's going to be able to participate Saturday after his arrest, and whether or not he's.
It was after. It was May 24th.
Okay, so I based off that information, I would presume no. I think maybe there's probably a spring suspension. However, he was available during the most recent scrimmage. He did not play in the first scrimmage. It was right after his troublesome moment, and then he did practice in the most recent scrimmage. So there's an opportunity for him to play, but I don't know.
Do you remember when James Cook was arrested? Because this happened a little while ago, all in the offseason as well. Let me look it up.
I remember being at Thanksgiving for my in-laws, writing that article in the living room. That's how my brain works. Okay, maybe that was Devontae Wyatt.
It was December.
Yeah. Christmas time.
Look at you.
Yeah. See? Just a wicked brain. I gotta trick it like that too. Like when my wife asked me about something, like the other day, she's like, "Hey, where was that park you went running at the other day?" And I said, search Good Find Mama. Because that's what I was like, I sent it to her. I call her Mama. She's the wife and mother of my kids. Good Find Mama is what I sent back to her about finding that park for me. So that's how I remembered find that. It's how my brain works all the time. Just I remember one thing, and then it brings me back to that. CTE, right? Gotta be.
Something.
Too many hits to the head. Or too many hits. You know what I mean? All right, so... He got it. That guy gets it.
That was a good one.
That was not bad. A glimpse. We got a glimpse at the G-Day roster today on social media when they put out a video. Are we going to play this video for them?
I do not have it.
Okay, it's all good. They put out a video of the equipment team did of the jerseys. And the takeaway that I have from this, just off rip, the first team defense on Saturday will be in red. The first team offense will be in black. Therefore, the second team defense will be in black as well. And the second team offense will be in red. I don't know what our talking points are on this, but let's have at it.
Well, the one talking point that I had was, so they flashed up a red number 11 jersey. That began a conversation of, is that Jalen Walker's jersey or is it Arian Smith's? I think it's a little too small to be Jalen Walker's jersey, so we assume that that's going to be Arian Smith, meaning that he's going to be second team offense. I was wondering, so does that mean Anthony Evans is going to be running with the ones, or what we are calling the ones right now in that wide receiver group, or are they going to put Anthony Evans and Arian Smith on the same roster? My thing was, I don't know why you would put both of your burners on the same side of the ball together. I feel like you should spread that out and just kind of get a good amount of reps between both of them and see what they both look like in isolated plays. So I don't know. We
saw very clearly that the first group of X, Z, and slot are going to be Dylan Bell, Ra Thomas, and Dominic Lovett.
Yeah.
Right? We've reported here, I don't know if anybody else is talking about this, but we've reported that there has been a quote-unquote position change with Ra Thomas. Ra Thomas last year was playing predominantly X.
Yep.
When healthy, was out there at an X role. They are playing him more so in the Z position role now and keeping Dylan Bell at the X with Colby Young backing him up at the X position, and then a plethora of guys getting in the mix at the Z spot behind Ra. So that's kind of been the change, and we saw that represented in that first unit in those black jerseys where Dom Lovett was the first one popped up, then it was Dylan Bell, after that Ra Thomas.
Yeah, and I think the wide receiver rotation is going to be the most interesting thing to look, just because you have ones, you have twos, but then you have guys where it's like he's a number 3 technically, but he might be able to do a lot come the regular season as far as playing time goes. So,
like Cole Speer. Cole Speer mentioned today that he gets twos reps.
Exactly.
It's a lot of twos reps. Probably, if you were really to mark it down, if he's a slot receiver, he's probably the third or maybe even fourth slot receiver, because it probably goes Dom Lovett, Arian Smith, Anthony Evans, Cole Speer.
Right.
But he gets reps with the twos.
And then, like, as far as X and things such as that, like, you have Dylan Bell and Colby Young. I mean, there's viable threes at that spot too. I mean, you could move Arian to X at some instances. I mean, they have shown that before.
I have the ones receiving group from last year, or just people who had a reception on the ones offensive unit. It was Cash Jones, Brock Bowers, Dylan Bell, Dominic Lovett, Dejon Edwards, Ladd McConkey, Rojak, Oscar Delp, CJ Smith, Arian Smith.
Apart from Cash Jones, all of those football players remained a one.
Yep.
Come fall. Right?
Even Cash Jones.
Or CJ Smith was, I guess, kind of.
Nah, he was a 2, maybe a 3.
He started out the year, though, as a 1.
He did early on, had a good game against a home game.
It was either Ball State or one of those teams.
I believe.
He ran through his face. That's what Kirby Smart said after the game. He said, I want to see him run through somebody's face. And that's exactly what he did. Now he's at Purdue. They call them Zoom, apparently.
Ooh.
Yeah, I've been keeping up with the Purdue Boilermakers.
It's a pretty good name.
A lot of dogs on that
There
roster.
are.
A lot of dogs.
3 of them?
3?
Yeah, CJ Madden's one of them.
Nyland Green.
Yep.
CJ Smith. Bingo, bango, bongo. What else we got?
I mean,
Where were we even at?
we're talking about the glimpse of
G-Day
the roster, but
yeah.
we had some expectations that we didn't give. I didn't know if you wanted us to do that.
Tate was in black.
Oh, no, we're going to set the expectations. We still got 8 minutes to fill. But yeah, Tate was in that first group. You would imagine.
That means soon.
I think that those units are going to look like this: Ernest Green, Dylan Fairchild, Jared Wilson, Tate Ratledge, Xavier Truss, with Micah Morris in the same exact jersey color, and they will rotate with those. And then that 2s unit is going to be from left to right: Jamal Merriweather, insert offensive guard, maybe Cortez Smith. I don't know. The backup left guard is a question for me. And then Malachi Tolliver will get the first reps with the 2s at center, but I would imagine Tate Ratledge and a variety of people get reps at center on Saturday, outside of Jared Wilson. And then Daniel Calhoun at that right guard spot with the 2s, and then Monroe Freeling at that right tackle spot with the 2s. And that is a really damn good 2 unit.
Yes.
They're going to be very comparable. So I don't want to hear, there's a lot of posturing that goes on and excuse making that goes on with quarterback performances. I don't want to hear shit about he was playing behind the backup offensive line. I really don't. Okay, because that backup offensive line is on par with, I would say, 90% of the sport right now at that position. Go watch Clemson's spring game and you'll find out real quickly. So yeah, I think that 2s unit, no excuses behind that unit. You better hold up.
So do you think
I
rotation?
definitely meant Kelton Smith.
So do you think rotation for center at the 2s team is going to be Drew Bobo and Malachi Tolliver, or do you think they're going to try to rotate in Tate Ratledge?
Maybe the rotation of Tate comes in with the 1s unit, and then you rotate Drew Bobo and Malachi Tolliver. I don't know why I said Tolliver as a starter with the 2s at the center. It's going to be Drew Bobo. You're right. Drew Bobo, ball player, by the way, like a real like option. They think he's a winnable option on the offensive line, and I think a lot of people looked at that off of that commitment coming out of high school, and they're like, "Oh, it's just the coach's son."
Yeah.
They did the thing, but no, that's a legitimate football player
Like
at the University of Georgia.
like a travel in the fall type guy? Or?
I don't know if he's going to make the squad. I don't know if he's going to make the bus. But that all depends on how comfortable Tate is as the backup center, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's solely dependent upon that. But I think you have so many highly touted young guys that need to travel. I put it in the Discord today. I think there's like 8 or 9 guys on the offensive line right now that already have draftable NFL grades.
Yeah.
Like they are super deep in that room, and you really only travel like 9. I think you travel 9, maybe 10 tops in that position group. We traveled 8 in college, which makes it really, really tough, and it really, really emphasizes one of those 8 guys being able to play all 5. That was my way of getting on the bus as a young player. That's probably a guy like Daniel Calhoun's opportunity to get onto a bus, because he's going to be a guard and an opportunity to play a tackle at some point in his career.
Right.
Xavier Truss has been this guy for multiple years now at the University of Georgia as a swing player, so there's that as well. All right, let's set expectations for Saturday. Here's how this is going to work. I'm going to tell you what I expect to happen. These are known things. These are things that I should not be surprised by. I should see exactly what I thought I was going to see from these things. First and foremost, an example. Carson Beck's going to be mad accurate on Saturday. I expect him to complete 70% of his balls, 73% of his balls, 72% of his balls. I expect him to protect the football. I do not expect him to put the ball at risk, even though I hope he does. I really hope he does. I hope he pushes that sucker down the field. I hope he throws a couple interceptions on Saturday, to be honest with you. I really do. If I were Kirby Smart, I heard Bill Parcells did this to one of his quarterbacks back in the day. Oh, Chris Sims' daddy, Phil Sims. Phil Sims said before a Super Bowl practice, I don't know, it was a Super Bowl playoff game or whatever, but as they were walking out of the tunnel, he grabbed Sims and said, "Sims, if you don't throw an interception today, you're losing your job. Like, you're not going to play for me anymore, because I need you to be willing to do things I want you to believe that you can do things. I want you to be outside. I want you to play outside of your comfort zone at times, because we need you to drive this Ferrari hard into the corner. It's going to stick, I promise you." Shout out Cole Trickle. Okay, so that's what I want to see, and that's what I expect to see from him. On the other end, I expect Gunnar Stockton to have a couple plays on Saturday where he puts the ball at absolute risk. Gunner's the opposite of Carson from a mental perspective, from what I know and what I understand about him. Gunner's going to see things that happen on Saturday and know without a shadow of a doubt he can make it happen. When sometimes he's not going to be able to. And sometimes when he's not able to, it might look a little rough. I don't expect him to turn down any open options. He sees color, he's going to rip it. I promise you that on Saturday. Already talked about the O-line. I expect them to be 2 groups deep. I absolutely expect them to be two groups deep. Yeah, I expect a little bit of drop-off, but I do not expect Swiss cheese to be out there with the 2s, maybe with the 3s. I expect to see a shit ton of passing of the football with really, really basic concepts. Okay, really basic concepts. I do not expect them to get, any type of fancy. I don't expect them to look like they're going to look in August. I don't expect them to look like they're going to look in October. I do expect them to throw it 70 times on Saturday, though. I really do. I think Gunner and Carson go over 30 attempts because it is much easier to keep our football team safe when we are throwing the football as opposed to running the football. And here's my number one expectation, because it happens every single year. I expect overreactions. I expect people to watch what they see on Saturday and come out with some hot-ass takes, okay? Hopefully they're not from the media. Hopefully they're just from goofballs in my mentions on Twitter. But that's what I expect on Saturday.
I can tell you where I expect an overreaction to happen. Not necessarily in a bad way, but I think it's going to get really pumped up. I expect someone in the defensive line room to just really pop on Saturday. Last year, they allowed 6 sacks on G-Day. Now, it's a very different environment than what it is in a fall. A spring sack is very different from a fall sack. From practice, I do it. David. Walked right into that one. Anyways, so I think there's might be some overreactions
Who's out here
there.
Evaluating the sacks?
He said fall sack.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, so yeah, I think there might be some overreactions there. Like, you might have a guy pop off with like 2.5 sacks on the day, and people are like, oh my gosh, we got the greatest thing ever. But again, it's very different. And then the second thing that I said, I expect a very balanced day from the wide receiver group. I don't think people should go into this spring game expecting that one player is going to have 8 receptions for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think, like, you look back at it last year, it was 1 reception, 2 receptions, maybe 3 receptions. The only guy that had, like, I think 6 receptions was Malachi Muse last year, and he had the big explosive. But everybody was kind of around like the 42 yard range and about 2 receptions on the day. So I think it's going to be a collective. It's going to be a collective bar. I can't think of the next word I'm using. It's going to be collective effort for the wide receiver group on Saturday. It's not just going to be one guy showing up.
I had faith in you.
Thank you.
My turn?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so the first one, going off overreactions. You're going to have the Rod Robinson is baby Nick Chubb comps by the end of the spring ball.
Oh, man. You are running back at Georgia. You lift weights. You Nick Chubb.
You run over someone. Hey, that's Nick Chubb right there.
You white, then you Ben Affleck.
You already know it's going to happen. I said Carson and Gunner are also going to have big days as far as the amount of times they throw the ball. I also said you're going to see a bunch of explosive plays on offense. Last G-Day game, you didn't really see that. That's because they had a tight defense. You've got a lot of DBs and corners on that back end that are working shit out right now, and you have a lot of hungry wide receivers in what we suspect is going to be a very, very good wide receiver room. So you're going to see a lot of explosive plays, maybe even some busted plays this year, and I think it's going to be a higher scoring G-Day than you're probably used to. And then the final one is you're going to see a lot of heavy rotation on corners and defensive backs just because of the injuries they have combined with the fact that they're trying to still figure out who's who. So those are the expectations I think you can make for Saturday's game.
Chris Twinkie.
I like that one.
Ooh.
Yeah, not bad.
Brandon Feeden.
Feeding.
They used to call it tying a feed sack on.
What does that mean?
I guess it just means you're going to tie like a big meal on. Cade Klondike, not bad.
I haven't had a Klondike bar in years.
I would go ice cream Klondike bar.
You would what?
Ice cream Klondike bar. It's just an ice cream sandwich, basically.
Yeah.
I'm not into the mint, which is a normal Klondike bar, right?
I like mint ice cream.
I think regular is just chocolate vanilla.
Oh, okay.
I think that's original.
It's like vanilla filling on those things?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I guess I'm not a Klondike guy. But yeah, I do the Klondike ice cream bar.
You got the problem with Klondike is you got to eat it fast.
Yeah,
because otherwise it starts melting in your hand.
Yeah,
yeah.
And if you eat it too fast, you get a brain freeze. So
cake from, yeah. The cake for Jake has been in there quite a bit. Ham Newton,
there's one.
Yeah, All right, I'm good. Hey, appreciate you guys being here. We will be back Thursday. Again, if you were new here tonight, man, you are missing out on a nightly adventure with us on this network, because you never know. You truly never know what you're going to get here, including an outro video that I only play when I remember, and I always remember when I tell you to cut it off, end of night, all that good stuff. But tonight, I'm going to try to remember it, even though I can't find the damn video. All right, love you. Bye. We'll see you Thursday.
I mean, heck, it's a, heck, it's funny, heck,